All right, it's 7:01. You want to get started, Anna? Do you want me to just read that?
Sure, that'd be great.
Hold on a second. That was minutes, not an agenda. Hold on.
You need me to read the thing? I have an agenda open. I have our agenda.
Yeah, if you have it right there, Chris, just so that people know we're recorded and whatnot.
Sure. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being conducted remotely and will be recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. This agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at this meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by open meeting law. Public participation is encouraged. Public comments may be permitted on regular agenda topics in addition to the public comments periods at the discretion of the chair. Following information is provided for members of the public that would like to participate in the meeting remotely via Zoom. Zoom meeting ID is 792-737-0353. Or from a telephone, you can dial 888-475-4499 and enter the meeting ID 792-737-0353. Get registered with Zoom. You'll be asked for your name, email address. No participant ID is needed. Just press pound when asked. Telephone users may dial *9 to request to speak after joining the meeting. Computer and app users may use the raise hand feature to request to speak.
Thanks, Chris. It's all yours, Anna.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Chris. I'll print the whole agenda. I had printed my notes for the agenda, so thank you.
I did notice on our agenda, Dave's name is listed twice. He's a vice chair and member. Just an FYI.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I'm gonna blame that on Karen.
Yeah, that's 100% me, Chris. 100%. And I'm going to go in right now and take care of it.
Dave is that important, so it makes sense.
It does.
All right. Do we have any public comment or board comment? Let's start with public comment. Any public comment? No. All right. Any board comment? No.
Happy summer. It's hot.
It's hot. Yeah. All right. Approval of minutes. I don't think we have any. We didn't receive any minutes.
Oh, we literally got them in the last 5 minutes. She said,
Okay.
so they were late getting posted onto the YouTube channel. So with her summer job in this, it was delayed. So I will get them onto letterhead and get them over to everybody for our next meeting.
Okay. Town beach update. Liz, how's it going there?
It's going great. We're really having a good season. We've been really busy, which is awesome.
If you were to guess, do you think you're busier than pre-COVID times or just as much?
I think we're probably back to pre-COVID. Like the last 2 years, I feel like we weren't nearly this busy. So I think we're back to where we were before this, which is nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
And the swim lessons are going well?
they are. Yeah, we're almost done first session. We had over 60 kids, and second session's even busier. We have like 75 to 80 signed up right now.
Wow, that's
So, yeah, so we're doing really good.
Restrooms working out okay. They're staying clean and all that.
Yeah,
too.
they
Everything's
come
good that
once
way?
a week to clean them, and everyone's really okay with it. Everyone's been very understanding and really okay with it.
Excellent.
great. And do you have anything that we can help you or any requests? I know you're in communication with Rob, but have 5
yeah,
other people.
Yeah, we're kind of doing good. I mean, we put up the new buoys that had come in. We got those all set up. So really, besides that, I think we're doing pretty good.
So those buoys, Liz, those are the ones that were the on the far side of the beach where it was just a rope before.
Yes, so we
Okay,
added
so
them.
this is completing that. This is completing that chain.
Yeah, there's still, I mean, they didn't quite reach, but we put out the new ones that we got. So now there's just like a small section of the yellow rope with a couple extra buoys on it so you can see it.
Okay, but nothing
yeah.
where like boats aren't gonna, they'll see it.
No, they're definitely visible.
Okay.
So.
That's great. Okay, Liz, thank you. Does anybody have any other questions, comment for Liz?
Yeah, I have one quick question. Liz, this year, the way that Rob had it set up to sign up for swim lessons, everybody sort of was dumped into a big pot and then you divided like we did pre-COVID times, for lack of better
Yeah.
word. Did that work all right?
Yeah, that worked good, because this way no one, like last year, they signed up for a time, but then people were getting upset because they had like 4-year-olds and 11-year-olds, they all wanted the 10 o'clock slot, but they can't all be at the 10 o'clock slot. So this seemed to work better. Then we kind of grouped them where they needed to be and then gave them an exact time.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
that seems to be working.
And you guys managed okay today in the heat?
Yes, yeah, we did good. We got one of those little pop-up things. They set it up right by like the beach house.
Okay.
We got that set up, and we have been using the umbrellas unless it's really windy.
Okay.
On a windy day, those come flying down the beach, but
Yeah, I'm sure.
yeah,
So great. Thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, Liz, thank you for
Donna,
coming in.
If I could
Oh.
comment just very quickly.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, Liz, I drive by that time of day when your swimming lesson folks are arriving. So it's really hustle bustle around there. And
Yeah.
it's been good to see. I'm not sure if you see it because you guys are really busy on the beach, but I want to put out kudos to public safety. The police have been patrolling that immediate area almost every day. And making sure the speeds are kept down and protecting the public. So I'd like to get that out to them as a thank you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we definitely noticed them today. They were parked. They were like pulling a few people over. So that was good.
Yeah, I want to make one final comment. I know Karen had stopped by the town beach and spoken with Liz about, if she needed anything, and I guess sand came up. And Karen sent an email to Bill, and Bill got it done. Liz mentioned that she came in and one day was done. So
It was
thank you.
sand buoys. Yes, thank you, Bill.
Yeah. So Bill, thank you for taking care of the buoys, but I know that the sand was also probably a bigger project for you. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. I know the people there, they're coming to the town, to the beach, appreciate it as well. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Liz, you're welcome to stay with us. But I just want to hear from you. We only have a few months with you through the year and just give you a direct space to talk with us directly, but you're welcome to stay. But that was it for us. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. So Dave, I know Dave has limited time could be limited. Hopefully we're not having 3 hours meeting. But I don't know if it would be more than an hour. So if it's okay with the group, I'd like to move item 13 next. Any thoughts, questions, concerns?
Fine with that.
Okay, so item 13, Marshall Park Septic. A is discussion for clarification and possible rescind Parks Commission vote on committee installing septic system in 2 toilet facility with Board of Health funding. And I just want to give a little background, and then I'm going to welcome Dave to give background. And I think it's at the end we're all going to be in agreement and where we are. During our last meeting, Dave had made a motion which we all voted, but his initial motion was Parks Commission commit to installing septic system offered by Board of Health funding with 2 toilet facilities in the same general area. I then amended the motion to match the location shown in our master plan. Dave accepted the amendment and we all voted yes. I was in the meeting with the Board of Health, and if Dave wasn't there, we just want to understand where we really stand as to where we wanted these toilets installed if they were to be installed today. That's all. And when I made the amendment, my goal is to say, because this is all we have, it should match where the location of bathrooms and where it is listed in the master plan. If that's not what the group meant, I would ask that we rescind, because I think the language and the intent of what we said might not match. So if our intention is one thing, I think the language of the motion should match. So that's all. Dave, do you want to speak to it? You're on mute, Dave.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, I'd just like to add a little bit more to it. And, everybody that's on the meeting tonight was there at the last meeting for the most part. And all of our discussion leading up to the motion had been discussions surrounding the septic system. And I specifically, and a couple people talked about also after my comments, specifically stated that the toilet facility would be in the approximate location of the previous toilets on the plateau area, and gravity feed into the septic system. When the proposal for the change in the to include on the master plan, in my brain, the master plan does show where the septic system is proposed. It's outside of the master plan, but it is on that plan. And, you know, in my head, I didn't question, you know, the change because I knew it was, the system was on the plan. In my head, I had verbalized enough that the toilets would be located back where they had been removed from, which is at the end of the proposed septic system on that plateau. So that there's a difference in interpretation and a difference between Anna and I and on our goals with that motion. And I do have a very detailed motion prepared to replace the original motion from the last meeting.
Okay.
I would, Anna, if you're willing, I would like to go, like you, to go to the individual members that are on this meeting right now, and please ask them what their thought process was when we voted that, took that vote that evening.
Okay, well, Dave, can I ask you something? And we can do that. I'm not,
Yep.
but it's, my thought is, you know, since my intention, who made the amendment, was not one that matches yours, and you have a well-prepared, detailed motion, to just be, you know, cut to the chase, because we'll have to discuss the motion. Should we rescind last meeting's vote and then make a motion and discuss that motion? So then things are isolated, what we're discussing and talking, versus just
Yep.
to keep it clean. Okay.
Yeah, I'm perfectly good with that. I didn't know how you wanted to handle it, so I threw it out there, but I do want to hear, I would like to hear what the thought process in each of the members' heads was when they voted for the motion that we made at the last meeting.
Sure. Okay.
I don't think
So-
there's anything in the master plan that's where you're talking about. Is there, Dave? Like, that would be my only concern, I guess.
In the master plan, there is the, well,
Like we're putting something in and then we need to move it because of the baseball fields getting reconfigured.
no, there's nothing, this whole installation, including the toilet facility, does not interfere with anything on the master plan, except maybe the very edge of a flower garden. It's outside of the master plan footprint.
Well, Dave, I don't agree with that, because the master plan is the whole park, and that's within the perimeter of the park. So it is, so how about this? I am very clear on what my intention was on that. Let's just focus. So because, you know, I can tell you, like, from me personally, I was pretty tired by the time this motion came, and we all were. And you know, to say, you know, the comments during the discussion, like, it gets to a point, I just don't have it in me to make a counter argument to every point. But I know what my intention were. So why don't we, if you'd like to have a prepared motion, and I think it's great, if we want to rescind that vote, let's start with that, if that's what your wish is. So then we can focus.
I'm going to make a motion to rescind the vote taken at the last Parks Commission meeting regarding the Board of Health funding and the septic tank at Marshall Park. Septic system, sorry, and the two toilet facility.
I'll second that.
Okay, so I just want to put it out there, and I completely respect what you're saying about having further discussion with the next motion. I just want to make sure everybody is clear the steps on this, because we've sort of thrown Anna into the fire completely with this being one of the first things. So in talking with Anna this week, I went back and watched that video. It is, and even to me now, without having any other conversation with people, I could see both sides of this fence as soon as I listened to that discussion and read that motion again. And it happened at 9:22 or something, because it was at the 2 hour and 20 minute mark and everybody was tired, and it just didn't go through the way it was supposed to. So regardless of what we decide on in the next 10 minutes or so, I think this motion needs to be rescinded for that reason alone, because it wasn't clear enough. And let's put a motion into place that has better details in it so that it actually makes sense and everybody's on the same page.
So any discussion on the motion to rescind the vote? Okay, with that, I'll take a roll call. Karen,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And an aye for myself. All
Okay.
right.
Anna, if I may, could we get the motion on the floor and then we'll move from there?
Yeah, so Dave, with that, do you want to talk about the motion that you have and your purpose and so go for it. So let's create a good motion and detail.
Okay, I think the motion will be self-explanatory. You guys tell me if it's vague in any area. I move to accept the Board of Health's offer to build a septic system to fund the installation of the septic system at Marshall Park and move forward with planning, funding, and construction of the septic system at Marshall Park as shown on a plan by Dillis and Roy dated February, and I don't have the day, but it was February 2022, to include a new toilet facility at the location on that plan labeled former bathroom location. It is clearly marked on that plan. Design plan to be modified to accommodate this vote by the engineer and submitted for approval by the Board of Health and Conscom. Because the plan, I'll stop there and then I'll have some explanation after it's seconded.
Well, do you want, okay. So we have Dave's motion on the floor.
So I'll second that. I obviously further discussion is needed.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, further discussion. Dave, do you have the plans they're referring to?
Can I share? Do you mind if I screen share, Anna?
No, please go ahead.
Can you guys see what's up on the screen?
Sure can.
Okay. All right, Dave, am I where you want me to be?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Assuming that rectangle at the top is the proposed, you might have to pull it down a little further.
Oh, yep.
There we
You're
go.
right.
There we
Yep.
go. Okay, so this is the plan that was submitted for initial approval to the Board of Health and Conscom in relation to offsets to wetlands, so on and so forth, and the soil testing that was done at the park. At the time this was drawn up, it was really totally unclear as to where the toilet building was going to be. So, and Mr. Roy stated a number of times when he presented this plan that the location on the plan is more or less a placeholder. And, you know, then it would go back to both of those entities for a final verification once we knew exactly where the toilet facilities were going to be and any change in design that was caused by a relocation. Relocating to the block at the top of that plan that you see on the screen would be to the original location of the toilets that were removed. Fortunately, the slab is still there, so that gives us an exact footprint as to where it was, and allows us to play around with that 50-foot buffer line that went through the corner of the building. I would propose we probably shift it 2 feet to the right and just keep it out of that, but that's an agreement between the engineer and Conscom that would need to be made. Couple of things that this accomplishes if we do this. Number one, it's outside of the, as far as I'm concerned, it's a project outside of the scope of the master plan. Secondly, it eliminates the need for a pump chamber and pump system, which would need to be maintained over time. And allows us to put a septic tank back up on the plateau between the building and the septic system and gravity feed the whole system. So it's a very much more self-sufficient system. And as I said at the last meeting, once we it gives
Sorry.
on Chestnut Street side and on the property, which we are severely lacking right now, obviously. And it covers the Chestnut Street side, which has been really problematic, even this summer. So, and basically that was what's always been in my head, is to do it that way. I've heard that funding wise, $105,000 from the Board of Health, because of the way it needs to be bid, cost wise. That septic system you could put it in your backyard for approximately $40,000, but because of Mass General laws and procurement laws, it's probably going to cost the town $80,000 to put that exact same system in because of the procurement laws. So that brings us to the point where, if we're lucky, excuse me, we've got $25,000 left over that the Board of Health is still looking to expend. And obviously that doesn't cover the construction of a building. But I would propose that, designed properly, it should go a long way in taking care of bringing a pipe up to that area and maybe installing the slab and the initial plumbing and wiring for a dropped-in place prefabricated restroom. And those are in the cost range of $150,000 to $200,000 by themselves. So that's where I'm at. And the funding sources, I've been harping for months that we need to start looking at grant funding. This would have been a perfect opportunity to go for a Parklands grant. It's too late now. The deadline was this month, and those are up to $400,000. There's other grant opportunities also that I'm sure we could fund the cost of the building, take advantage of the Board of Health, and have this facility in there well before the master plan is anywhere near completion. Those are my comments.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yes. When I went back and listened to that whole section, what I was voting on was basically what Dave has put forward, with a bathhouse up at the top of that plateau. I have one concern and then one sort of FYI on this. There's a septic system in the ground now. It's disconnected and not operational because the bathhouse is down. So there's something there. If somebody had raised a concern that, people are going to be driving through that area to, in the rehab of the park, I, for two reasons, don't think that would actually be true. One, because there's already a septic in the ground and I'm not sure they would just, drive over it for the sake of destroying it. And two, it's up on a plateau. There's nothing else slated to go up in that area. It has a place marker, reserve this section the same way we did for the skate park of that septic. I think it was eye-opening, at least to me, this past spring when the complaints came in that our high school age baseball programs don't like to, or didn't want to walk to the front of the into the main parking lot to hit those restrooms. If they're not going to walk there now, they're not going to walk there when everything's up. So I think that a second bathhouse up at that location would be beneficial. That said, I don't know how we're going to fund this. And when I joined Anna at the Board of Health meeting on Monday night, She had met with them last week and I just sort of went along for the ride this week. The comment was made that they can't put in the septic if there's no bathhouse. And they're not gonna be able to fund the bathhouse. So I don't know how we're gonna fund that and if it makes sense to move forward with this if we don't have funding for the bathhouse.
Okay, I'd like, if I've got some more comments in regards to that, Anna, but I'd like to let Chris talk first.
Chris, do you have a comment, question, thoughts?
No, I'd agree, I think, with what's said. I mean, I think we need to work with whoever whoever we would be working with to, work on that funding. I think it is an important aspect. As Karen pointed out, I mean, there's restrooms there that aren't getting utilized by the, baseball teams that are there playing, and whether that's they don't want to, or they're not, truthfully, they're not even visible from the field where, where the varsity and JV teams are playing. Like, you can't even see that there's bathrooms there over on the other end of the park. So I think it is an important piece. That it is kind of what I had in mind, I think, as well, putting that in my own, I guess the only other, just making sure we have assurances that if we were to move forward, that the master plan that we have in a, that we've worked on so far, and the drawings that we have and so forth aren't interfering with where this would go. And I don't think it does. I mean, you can see a kind of a placeholder of some kind on the preferred design, but just making sure that we're kind of putting that in effectively, putting it in a way that it's accessible from the parking lot. Like, we're going to put parking over on that side. I mean, but just making sure we're doing it well thought out in terms of the layout and how it would go in there, that we'd be putting it in a way that would make it accessible from the parking lot, from the, from the new orientation of a ball field, things of that nature.
Okay, Dave, would you like to make your comments?
Yeah, Karen, in regards to the septic system, not I don't remember, we had that conversation that it can't go in the ground without the building already planned. That's really not true. I don't know who said it, but there is in Title V an allowance for a septic system to be installed, especially on new construction. House lots, they're allowed to go into the ground even before breaking ground for the building. There is a limit. I believe it's 3 years, but I haven't got a straight answer out of anybody yet. I don't propose that we do that, but if we, in the near future, do start to solidify a solution for the building itself, then I'd like to see the installation of the system move forward, and especially if it's going to be a prefabricated building, we would need to have the slab and all the plumbing to the septic system and water and electric coming into the slab in place before the building is dropped in place. So there's a little, I don't know how to describe it, but there are a number of individuals giving scenarios that are not necessarily true, and it's ultimately the decision of the members of the Board of Health as to whether or not a system goes in the ground pre-building to be hooked up to it. Once they approve a system, like I said, under Title V, there is a window of opportunity where it can go in the ground and not be connected to anything. The other thing, Karen, is would it be easy for you to pull up from the preferred plans one of the last 3 pages that shows the plan itself, because it shows the area set aside for the septic field, and it also shows where the I believe it's the walking trail is in relation to that. And with that relationship, that's an ADA compliant trail. So it will be I believe, very easy to tie access to the toilet facility up there on the plateau to that trail, because it passes right along parallel to it, I believe.
I have that preferred design open already. I pulled it up to get a look if you're finding it, Karen, or
Yeah, I think I have it right in front
you
of
got
me.
it? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I was trying to eyeball it myself.
Yep, let me just screen share it. So this one's probably the best one. Let me see if I can. So this is the proposed septic location right now. So the proposed septic is on this map. It's the exact location of the septic area that we already have now. So this is where it's being earmarked for. And then the old slab of where the former facilities were. I don't know if you can see my pointer. It's about 75 feet off the side of that septic.
Okay, and then, as I was saying, that white line around the 90-foot diamond, that is the walking trail. And that's pitched to be ADA compliant. I'm not exactly sure about the elevations between where that ends up in the final design and that plateau. But it should be fairly simple to connect a ADA compliant pathway to either, well, I would prefer connect to the walkway, not the parking lot. But yes, you pointed it out perfectly, exactly where I envisioned it should be, and what I was envisioning at the last meeting.
Okay, so I have some comments. Thank you, Dave,
Yep.
for explaining all this. So just so we are clear about, and I'm gonna go through some of the points that were made, but just so we are clear about what I'm against and what I'm for. I am against, doing things without planning, or without enough knowledge. That I am against. I am not against a toilet facility up there, not at all. I have my main concerns with this project as it is now. I mean, until when Greg Roy came to our meeting, he talked about being able to pump that anywhere in the park. And that's why we had the freedom to design things the way we did. And we always thought about we having two options of doing either connecting to the sewer or using the septic. So that's what I have lived with for this whole time. And I did put an agenda item for discussion of timeline, because I think that's very, very important. So just as we have the skate park that's going there prior to the master plan, that was a plan that has been, we saved the space. Greg Roy, which is the skate park engineer, worked with Lola. We created a plan around that. So if you tell me we're just going to build a septic, I'll say, yes, that seems fine. But now we're talking about adding something to the design that's not there. And adding something to it, it's literally going to be as close to marking an X on this design and saying it's going to go here. The survey is not done. If we go 75 feet north, I'm assuming this is north, we're very close to property line. There's so much that we don't know that, and it could be there, but there's so much that we don't know at this point right now to commit to put a toilet facility there, that therefore right now, I don't think it's the right time for us to say we would put a toilet facility there. I mean, right there, we're very close to the property line as it is now. We don't even have the survey. Dave, I was in the meeting, and Bill can speak if you would like. I did ask Bill to join us to help explain the timeline B, but he's welcome to chime in if you'd like on item A. I was in the meeting with the Board of Health and Jim, which I think is the health inspector, and there were 6 people there, 7 people. And Jim said, you can put a septic tank in, but you have to keep the permit up to date. So if you don't install, the permit is good for a year. If you don't install, you can then go back and renew the permit. And that process stays on until you attach a toilet facility. Putting in, the other thing that was said was putting in the septic tank without knowing where you're going to exactly connect. You don't know where to put the pump, the electric parts to it. And Jim's, and it had a lot of questions about putting the septic tank, building the septic tank before we for sure knew where that toilet was going to go. In terms of that, I think it was Karen who made the comment of there is a septic tank there. There's not a septic tank there. The truth is, this is being done under repair, but when they took the bathhouse down, this was said in the Board of Health meeting that I was, and Bill was there. You know, Dave, you weren't there, but what was said was,
They're incorrect. There is absolutely a septic system.
so
in
you
the-
don't know what I'm gonna say.
Okay, but I'm telling you, there is one because I was part of that.
What they said was that septic system, they can't leave a septic system like empty like that. So that septic system was filled. Now, what that means in general, I'm assuming is we're probably gonna dig it on the general area, but it's going to be a new system. It's as close to a new system as it is. So in terms of cost, Andrea told me that the cost is $85,000. They have already spent $10,000 from their budget that was paid to Greg Roy. So now that we're at 95, I think they have about 105,000. And you know, it's clearly not enough money to get this project to a place of building toilets. And we have, you know, I've been trying to get, and I got a ballpark from WOLA of what the engineering, the schematic designs would cost. And that just came over the weekend. It came Friday night. That's when I saw the email, but the email is definitely dated on Friday. And that's she said it will be about 165,000. So we have, and I think when we get the engineering done, the schematic design done, we'll know where we can put a second toilet facility on the property or not. That is the time to do it. But that money, that we need another $165,000 to move this whole project forward.
What's the 165,000 cover? Like, what is that for?
It's for creating this, it's the ballpark figure of what it would cost to create the schematic design that will be pretty much getting the project ready to bid. Is that clear, Chris?
I'm just trying to like.
For the entire project.
For the whole
So-
master plan.
For the whole master plan.
Oh, I thought you were talking about engineering for the, I'm like,
No,
hold on
no.
a second, like what we just spent to do a whole park was,
Right.
okay,
No,
that's, okay,
yeah.
that's why I was getting some clarity.
Which is aligned with what the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Select Board had for their costs for their schematic design. So the problem that I see is, okay, we get the septic tank in, and let's say now we have a year before the permit expired, because that was said very clear in the meeting. Now we need $300,000+ to do these two things. And the sooner we can get these schematic designs done, the sooner we can go out looking for grants, looking for funds. Believe me, I'm going to be calling, I'm going to make every connection we can. I have to try to get us funding. I mean, just today, Lori Trahan announced money for Winchendon, Fitchburg, everywhere. Lunenburg is not on the list. There has been money for parks for Fitchburg, a couple different ones. I don't follow Natalie Higgins, so I don't know if there's been much for Leominster. But we need this money to move this project forward. So I don't see us being able to gather $300,000 over the next year to move both things forward, the toilet and the schematic design that we need in order to move forward. So the timeline for all this is the next agenda item, but it just doesn't feel like the right time that we can actually say that we can put a toilet there. We don't have anything to say that is okay to do. And then we go back to Karen, your point of saying, we're not going to be driving over that. I don't know if we're going to be driving over there. We don't have the designs for it. We can say whatever we're going to say, but if we put something there now, anything that happens afterwards has to happen around it. And that's just not logical to me. There is a parking lot that's probably going to go 75 feet aside away from that. So, so it's just not the right time to break ground for this. The last thing that I'll say is my purpose on going into the meeting on Board of Health on Monday night was to ask, why do we have to be hasty with this? Why can't we do things on the expected order of events? And I respect their wish, the Board of Health wishes to use the money and, within their term, but this money has been with them since 1986. And all we need is a year here to try to move this project forward, get the money to get the schematic design done so we can go ahead with other parts of it. And maybe this facility is literally phase one. And that can be decided when we get the schematic design. So this money is not going to go away unless the Board of Health decides to give it away to someone else. That's their timeline. That's not our timeline. And I think their timeline conflicts with our objectives. And that I think is problematic. So I am okay accepting the proposed septic. I'm okay accepting their financial help. I will not accept toilet facilities there without proper engineering. It just seems illogical, and for all those reasons. So that's where I stand with this. And that's why I had said, let's put it where it's planned. At least the cards will fall where they're planned to fall. But
So I don't think we'd be putting anything anywhere, obviously, without proper engineering. We wouldn't be allowed. But I don't know that it has to be done inclusive of that 165,000. We're putting there's a skate park going in that's not inclusive of the 165,000. We could do a septic plan on that side in that area outside of the purview of 165,000.
well,
I think companies, companies are going to work around things that are in, and if we have a plan, and we think that this is, we're adopting and have voted to look at this preferred design and say this is kind of this is our deal. Like, this is what we're going to run with. This is what we like, and it's going to make sense to drop a small facility over on that side with the septic system. I think we can, operate a little bit outside of the purview of the larger project to do something like that. I think it is something that's somewhat important in that park to address sooner rather than later. I'd hate to be a year, 2, 3 years down the line before we're putting a facility in there. At this point, just given what we're seeing and kind of where we're at, and we're trying to increase use over there and so forth. I think we have some. I'm curious, like, we have a small batch of money still with WOLA that we can spend.
that money does not
Can
need
they
to be
put something together to give us a rough idea that this, can they add to this design and tie in a small facility on that design at an angle that would meet somewhere in between the walkway and the parking lot and the proposed septic space? Like, can they drop something in there with the money that we have left to give us a look at it to see what it would look like? And then we can, then proceed with more detailed engineering on that piece.
So
I think we have money available to us for this project. I would certainly you know, look to capitalize on that as soon as we possibly could. You make mention to say like, you know, that's, you know, the Board of Health timeline, and we're willing to accept their money, and it's our money until they change their mind. I mean, if another project comes forward and they change their mind, we're now out $105,000. Or Marsh, the citizens of the town are out $105,000 to add something that's a good feature for Marshall Park. It's going to add immediate value to the park, even ahead of the greater, you know, master plan. And yes, overall, I understand it's, you know, it's inclusive of the master plan, but it's not in the design that we did. It's not. So we're kind of operating outside of that purview a little bit on that front. So, I mean, I would think that, you know, is it
Chris-
feasible to use the small capital we have left with WOLA to maybe kind of have them tweak something and drop a square along the walkway there to signify a bathroom, and you know, and then we look at the proper engineering and so on. But I think we can, you know, move forward with
Okay,
kind of
Chris,
the idea of that area.
I have a question for you. So the toilet facilities per Dave right now, he said it'll probably cost $150,000. So over the next year, this is separate from this. We need $150,000 from the town. Want to move the whole project forward, which then when that's done, would be the right time to then phase this as project phase 1. And the other one is to move this one thing and then put everything else on hold. You have 2 asks for the town. Is it like, we gotta make that, the timeline is a question, but it's line B of this agenda, because I think that's 2 different things. Bill, can I ask you, and for your professional opinion on timeline and projects and development, if you could, please?
Yes. So in my opinion, I think you need a full set of plans, a full set of design plans for the entire park, for the entire master plan. If you go ahead and put in the septic now, you're adding risk. And risk in construction is dollars. Right? You know, it looks like it'll work on the master plan, and you know, but that's not the scale. That's just an artistic drawing. There's no engineering behind that. So, you know, you're saying, you know, we could potentially lose that $105,000 now if we don't go forward. There's a possibility you'd spend more than that if you put it in and you have to do design changes, or, you know, do more excavation or more fill, or whatever it takes to get the 90-foot field where, you know, where you want it. I guess it's up to the commission to decide that, but in my opinion, I think you need more engineering done before you can make a truly good decision on this.
I'd like to rebut a few of those comments, if I may.
Sure.
Go for it.
Thank you. Bill, I know you're a newcomer to this whole process, and it's been a long one, and intricate pieces of it are, from my perspective, separate from the master plan. And this piece of it has been, in my mind and a few other people's minds, held separate from the master plan, including WOLA. They were supplied with the engineering plans that we saw just a few minutes ago on the screen. They were asked to set the area aside to accommodate that, and they have. So they're very much aware of what we were planning to do, and it was considered by owners. It was not figured into the master plan as it's designed today. That was a whole separate project. So I feel we should keep it separate from the master plan and not get it tied up in another 3 to 5 years of schematic design and fund sourcing, where I honestly believe personally, we can bring that in. Well, the Board of Health could put that septic system in the ground this summer if we allowed them to do it. And yes, there's some maintaining of viability to be followed through with on a yearly basis, but there is no reason in the world why, if we have someone to start applying for these grants, and I have a list of grants that I need to go back to, and some of them were specific to improvements in facilities at parks of this type, and get the funding that's necessary to complete the building. I don't disagree with you about the engineering. There needs to be some more done, and Dillis and Roy, I think, can update that and place the building. And then there needs to be a design separate from the septic system for the building itself. That's my vision. Yeah, that does delay it a little bit more than I had hoped, but I don't totally disagree with you, but I do not believe this project was ever intended to be rolled into the master plan. Maybe in Anna's brain.
Oh, you know, Dave, you could be respectful
No,
with that.
no,
Come
I'm
on,
being
dude. I've been in
respectful.
every meeting.
David,
No, be
David.
respectful as a fellow commissioner.
You stated that in your mind, it has always been part of the master plan.
No,
The toilet facility. Yes, you did.
Dave,
You were running
Dave,
big
watch
back
how you phrase things, because it's really, you cross lines sometimes, and this was just one of them.
there. You know, these generations are really sensitive to things. I mean, just say it like it is.
I'm glad I'm not. Please focus the conversation on what's ahead.
I didn't even know my screen moved. I mean, take this back 25 or 30 years, and that septic system and toilet facility would already be there and functional. And I'd love to go back 40 years. You know what? If we went through this process with Powell Field, it wouldn't be there. I'll end my comments there. We have a motion on the floor too, by the way.
Well, I haven't finished, I haven't closed the discussion, so,
Okay.
excuse me. You know, never into the last meeting, I had ever heard that this toilet facility, this plans was separate from the master plan. And I've been at every meeting since I joined the Parks Commission a year and a half or so ago, more than a year and a half. Never had been any discussion. In fact, when Greg Roy came to talk about it, he stated, we can pump this anywhere. That was said, it's on video. There has never been conversation about that. It's just, and you know, you in our meeting, in our community meeting with WOLA, you made a comment about previous parks commissioners that will allow people to just do whatever and without knowledge, and they didn't appreciate that comment. So, you know, at that meeting, you criticized that approach of things, and now you are criticizing a more diligent way of doing things. So that's all. And yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that, but please be mindful of your comments. Okay, so just so to be clear, we did get into the timeline for installation of the septic. That I would have liked that to be a separate conversation. Because we need to make that very clear. We did touch it, maybe it can be a vote right after this one, but any other comments or thoughts?
Could you repeat that? That was not clear at all as to what you just said in my mind.
We have a line item agenda that says timeline for installation of septic in facilities with Board of Health funding as a separate item on the agenda.
Okay.
And maybe that can be a quick vote after this vote, because we touched upon talking about timeline of that. Is that clear?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Any other, Chris, do you have any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I know you know, this is obviously at the end of the day, it's all going to be encompassing into the overall master plan of the park. But I am on the, you know, the inclination of this being a separate project. If it was, if the proposed, where it is where we're talking about it going was part of what we've already been discussing as far as a master plan, I think it would have been on the design. And it's not. So I think it is by nature of what we're talking about and where it is, it has made itself as a separate piece of this. You know, I certainly don't want to, you know, I think we want to make the right decision, obviously, and not spend money we don't need to spend, or spend money that you know it's going to cost us later. But you know, which is why I'm asking about, you know, what can we do with that piece of money that we have left? Can we attribute that to this thought process, and you know, put it, you know, gain a little bit more insight to that scenario. I mean, I think if we decide to move forward and put a septic up there on the hill, put it back there, or as we know, there's some sort of septic system there, whether it's filled in or whatever it is, there's something up there now. And if we decide to move forward, you know, with that, we're not doing that in a way that's putting something in the middle of the park that needs to be worked around. It's on the edge of the park. It's on the edge of the park, out of the, you know, out of the way of where I would suspect the majority of the work is going to happen. You know, when and if we move, you know, when we move forward with this project. So, you know, that's just my 2 cents. If we can apply any of that limited funding we have left.
Are you talking about the
course.
10,000?
We have like 15 grand left, I think, 15, 16 grand left that we can.
I don't think it's, I think Lola came in at almost 38. So it's
I thought
like
they were
12.
30. I thought they were 30. I thought there was like 15
Six.
grand left or something like that. 14 or 15
I
grand
think
left.
we
I
came in
think.
at 34 or 36.
Yeah, there's somewhere 14, roughly 15 grand left, I thought. So can we apply that? Can they do something with that to kind of give us a rough idea if it's feasible over there? Yeah, you know, like, and maybe we find they say, oh, you can't. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like,
I mean, we just had an opinion of an engineer about the steps of this. It's about engineering. What we have now, you know, it's.
This whole thing is going to have to be engineered, and I think, but I think it is
And
a
it's-
separate piece here, and I think it's going to be important for us not to
So
wait for the whole plan to come, like the whole piece to come together. It's adding it, that this thing would add immediate value to the park.
I agree with that.
You
I'm
know,
just,
so I mean, I think if we can, we're not talking about putting a septic system out where it's marked bullpen on the design in the middle of the, you know, in the middle of the field. We're putting it where it already was. And you know, and can we, you know, can we engineer that piece or get some more insight with Wola to that it's feasible in some capacity and what it would look like? I mean, I'd like to see what it would look like over there, even if it's in this kind of preferred design or whatever. Like, does it make sense to drop it there?
Right.
You know, how does that get incorporated over there? You know, does it? I don't know.
If I may, Anna, and then unless you,
no,
Yep.
the-
just on Chris's comments.
go for it.
Okay. I tend to agree with the, you know, looking at the possibility, and I had talked to Heather, town manager, about those exact funds and possibly expanding the scope for WOLA to bring the playground, I'm sorry, not the playground, the picnic area at Highland Street at Marshall Pond to schematic design with those funds. But where that is definitely part of the master plan project as designed by WOLA, I would now propose what Chris just said. See if this small separate project, in my mind and a few other people's minds, I believe, you know, with some of the engineering already done, a tweak of the septic system, and see if WOLA could bring us to schematic design on this septic toilet project with the money left from the master planning. And then we move forward with that and get it done. Because the whole master plan project is not going to be a quick, fund it and get it done 2-year project. This is going to be extended for quite a while. And I think
So-
we all understand that.
Well, the part that I disagree a little bit with you, Dave, is that the town did have 200 grand that was slotted for a park thematic design that the town did not vote for. So there is 200,000 grand that right now needs to be recertified as cash and so forth, that we could, theoretically ask to be that in the next town meeting. And there is ARPA funding that that it's also available. So, I feel like, this project, even with the Board of Health funding help, it will cost us one way or the other, $165,000 between, it's either going to be the toilets or the schematic design for the whole project. One of the two. I don't think we can get 300 grand. And to move this project forward, we need to have all the designing done. That's the thing. That's where so if we can get if we can focus on one thing and not get distracted, and we could run into extra costs because that's going to cost us more money because we put something up there already, So let's just get the schematic design done. The town has that money, literally. We took 200 grand out of the select board park, which I voted for, and I raised my concerns when I was at town meeting. Let's ask for that money for our park. I mean, we've been working on this project for almost 2 years. Why would our project be less worthy of that money to create the schematic design? That was literally what was denied in town meeting. So I think we have a fair question to the town, which is, hey, here's another park, and we have 200 grand that was available as free cash. So I think it's just the timing and the process, and I'd like to focus us on getting the engineering done for the whole park, and then, if we're aggressive, we could by next spring be working on the septic tank and the bathhouse, because that could be phase 1 on the well-engineered project. The survey is going to be done. We have the IFB for the survey. We can send that out. That's the first part. And then let's work on getting the money for creating the engineering designs. So
I think we have
that's,
to be careful calling it phase 1 though, because we don't know. I mean, I think it's on the agenda for later, but we say phase 1, but if the funding comes through and you're talking about springtime, we can be doing this and that's phase 1 or whatnot. That then includes the baseball field. I mean, if it doesn't, then we're doing the same boat that we'd be in right now. If we're talking about what we're talking about, where we'd be working around putting in a septic plant up there.
well, but
So
the engineering,
if we can't do, if the funding comes in a way that's it's going to interrupt the baseball season, my impression, my personal opinion would be that the baseball and softball fields don't become phase 1 because we'd be interrupting a season. So it would be another, so we'd be prolonging that sort of scenario out.
I think if engineered correctly, this could be just what we're proposing now. But right now, we don't have property lines. There's so much unknown to say this is what we want to move forward. So that's my concern, is we're putting the car ahead of the horses. And we need to ask for money. And are we going to be asking for $150,000 to build a bathroom before the engineering is done? Are we going to put this 1.5 years of work that we've done on hold? That's it. So
I think we have to be careful what we ask for too, because our
Right.
mission all along to the town, the citizens of the town, has been, we're going to pursue grant money,
right,
not come to town dollars. So
Right.
and that's which is why I'm looking at this as a separate piece, because this isn't part of the it wasn't part of the master plan that we did. If you look at the master plan that we have laid out, what was specified, there is no bathhouse up there. There is no bathroom. There is no septic. There's a box that says proposed septic. You know, so we have a separate piece that we've gone after. We have secured funding to take care of the septic. And we're looking at it as a separate item outside of the scope of what we have as designed for the master plan, which we've, you know, repeatedly said we're going to be looking to go after grants and things like that.
Chris, I don't want to interrupt you, but I just want to make sure everybody's clear on something when it comes to grants. A grant is, there may be some that will cover 100%, but grants such as the park grant only cover 50 to 70%, and that's a reimbursed grant. That, which means the town has to pay for it up front, and then we get reimbursed. It's the same process that happened when we acquired Northfield Park and the old Sliba property. So the chances of us getting a grant that covers 100% is probably, I don't want to say it's zero, but it's not as likely that we're going to get something to cover 100% as we would something that would cover 50 to 70%.
Yeah, just we have to be careful of going the first, you know, we have this plan, and the first thing we're going to do is go back to town meeting in November and say, hey, by the way, can we have that 200 grand that you guys didn't, without any attempts to look at grants?
I'm not.
I just think it's a bad message.
Chris, what you're saying, I subscribe to it completely. I just, that's why I say we're not in the position to make decisions about moving forward with anything right now. A septic, and this is part of Marshall Park. I don't know if we can sell it to the town that will give us, but anyway, it is, you know, it's out of, my opinion, is out of order. It's taking the focus, it's literally taking the focus away from the master plan. And I did ask Heather if it's common to ask to get funding earmarks for design, and she said it is not common, because I was thinking about hitting our state reps for money, and she said it's not common to get money for design projects, so much that that's why the select board had come to the town. So Dave, do you want to read? Sorry.
No, I'd like to make a couple more comments before I reread it.
Okay.
Okay. The back and forth for the last 5 or 10 minutes. You know, you keep talking about, you know, if we do this project separately, it's not going to allow us to get the funding to go to schematic design for the master plan. I personally disagree with that. We potentially already have the money appropriated, as I stated earlier, enough money to bring this small project to schematic design once we tweak the system design with the engineer that designed it, Dillis and Roy. So we already have the ability, if we pursue that and the funding, to have that to the schematic design point and know exactly what we need additional to the Board of Health to make that happen and complete it. Why we can't do that simultaneously with looking to find funding for the master plan as a whole, separate, other than this small piece, I don't understand. Multitasking is a thing of the past, I guess, because, I mean, in the past, boards have worked on multiple projects all at the same time. And especially if you have a piece of the funding already available to you, you go with that before you lose it and move that piece forward. Anna, I know we can discuss this all night and it's not going to change your mind. That's fine.
It's
not. It's a 5-member board, as we stated at the last meeting. And, you know,
it's just, you keep dropping comments. They're just not, you know, they're hard to just ignore it. You know, saying that we don't know how to multitask. Come on. Like, do you have to go down for the personal offense here? Give me a break. It's just, you go down those lines. It's just hard to walk out of it without taking insults, without just saying, oh yeah, he didn't really say that. So
are you ready? Are you ready for it to be restated?
Yes,
Okay. Our clerk has a copy of this that I hope she can read as I sent it to her. So she has it for her records, word for word. I move to accept the Board of Health offer and move forward with the planning, funding, and construction of the septic system at Marshall Park as shown on the plan by Dillis and Roy dated February 2022, and I proposed that the clerk fill in that date. I couldn't find it on the plan quickly earlier today. To include a new toilet facility at the location on that plan labeled former bathroom location. Design plan to be modified to accommodate this vote by the engineer and submitted for approval by the Board of Health and Conscom. That is the process that would have to go through anyway if anything in that system or that design is modified from what they've seen already. And that's a very common process. That's the stated motion and seconded.
who's second? Did we have a second on that motion?
I had
Yeah, it had
second.
to have been open discussion.
Okay. All right, are we ready to vote? Yep, okay, Karen,
I don't know.
all right, Chris?
Aye.
No for myself. Dave?
Aye.
Dave, before I give you my vote, I need reassurance from the Board of Health that they understand that we have to go after funding for this facility, that it was Andrea, their administrative assistant, that said that the facility would have to be built. She didn't say there was any timeline. I'm concerned that we pass this, they put in septic and we never get funding. And now they're out $105,000. That's where I'm stuck. I'm a yes for having the facility and the septic. I'm just stuck on making sure they understand that we have to figure out funding. And this may go nowhere because if we have no funding, it's going nowhere.
I think I've clearly stated that it's a no-brainer that the funding can be procured in addition to what the Board of Health is willing to put into it, the full $105,000. And it'll happen. The Board of Health wants it to happen. There are a lot of people that want it to happen. The funding will be found to get it to happen.
Karen,
The other thing is that if we get it to schematic design with that leftover money from WOA, then we can go to our legislative team and say, okay, the design is done. This is the exact dollar amount paired with the Board of Health's dollars to complete the project. That's one possible source and one very viable source, because when they were running for office, I had conversations with them. They were very verbal about supporting Marshall Park's improvements, and toilet facilities was a specific subject that we talked about. So I'll go out on a limb and guarantee you that the funding will be found for that, and not interfere with the master plan itself.
Karen, if it makes you feel any better, I do like to have a separate conversation about the timeline, and it can be a quick vote, but maybe that would be a time to create
Right,
some.
so I'm a yes on this, Dave, you know my concerns. I'm a
Yes.
yes with those concerns.
Okay, so let's just then talk about the timeline, because that way we can then create some logic and concerns about this. So that was a yes, that's a 3-1. All right, timeline for installation of septic tank facilities with Board of Health funding. That's the item for discussion now. Just as it is with the skate park, that we have been very clear about, there needs to be rules about it. We don't want to end up with a project that gets started and not finished. I think we need to have a timeline and conditions around the installation of this. So any thoughts on this, Karen, that goes along with what you're talking?
No, because it's putting a timeline on funding that don't have, on grants that have deadlines that in some of those grants are going to be dependent on town meeting. I don't know how we put a timeline on it.
Or conditions?
I don't know what the vote, I don't know what the vote is.
Well,
Like
there's
we can't vote on, we can't vote on a timeline because we don't have
Oh.
anything to go on. I mean, I think the next step, in my opinion, would be to go back to WOLA with that 14 to 16 grand we have and say, can we do this with that money?
So,
Can
so
you do
that would be a separate conversation. Like, we haven't talked about that. We talked
But I
about
think that's the
wanting to do
next, I
that.
think that's one of the next steps we need to look at.
We can, but right now, that's not on the agenda.
No, that's timeline for, well, I mean, well, I guess, but
So
to
that could
install a
be-
septic, we have to get to a point where we can install one.
Right.
So like the next step would be, before we can really vote on any sort of timeline to install a septic facility and deal with Board of Health funding, additional funding, would be to get a concept on the designs that we have to put a square on it and see what it looks like and right.
Hey, Anna, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to step away for a little bit. I'll probably be able to get back in before the end of the meeting, but good luck on this conversation. I've been called away at work.
Okay. Well, Chris, what we can do is just have a conversation about, just as we will have about the skate park. And you can put a timeline on projects to break ground or not, because otherwise we end up with
I
something
get
like.
timeline might be the
primary.
wrong word. I think a timeline.
Okay.
Like dates. I don't like, we can't put dates on something we don't have a plan for, which I think was what
Well-
Karen's point was.
Okay, well, I don't think we as a park commission should leave that something can just go break ground anytime without any guarantees. Just
No,
think of-
no, but that's what I'm saying. I think
Right.
maybe timeline is the wrong word then, because like
Okay, so-
timeline, in my opinion, is dates. Like, and I don't think we can put dates on
Okay,
this
so
project yet. I don't think.
timeline and conditions
I'm-
for installing the septic and facilities, like a process. I just.
Yeah,
I
maybe
just-
process is the word,
Okay.
which is what I'm saying. The next step needs to be, maybe we take that funding that we have, we go ask WOLA if we can they work with that 14 grand, 15 grand, whatever the number is. And incorporate what we're talking about into the preferred design that we have. That's
Well, I don't think it's, so just to be clear, like, what we have now is a conceptual design. The next phase, where it would be engineering phase, you can say in that phase to say, can we put a toilet facility up there? You don't need another conceptual design to put a box, because the conceptual design is just that, is an artistic rendering of what things could look like. So we don't need to pay WOLA to put a box on that. It's my point. Like, does that make sense? That's all
sure,
the
yeah,
concept-
whatever.
yeah.
I'm just saying, we have, I mean, what do we have that 15 grand still, it's sitting out there. What can we work with WOLA on in this
And-
process, maybe
and
to
by
start to
the
incorporate
way,
that kind of deal?
According to Heather, it doesn't have to be WOLA
Right.
to use this, so.
I didn't know if that,
Right.
I was unclear if that, the
So-
overall 50 grand was tied to what we selected.
So what is our timeline or process for allowing the septic and facilities to be built?
I actually think it's a process that's going to, it's at this point, it's going nowhere because we don't have the funding for it. So I think at this point, it's a natural timeline without dates, because everything's going to be tied to things like town procuring the funds, even if it's a grant, going in front of town meeting. It's nowhere near coming to fruition. And I would hope that the Board of Health, in their statements that they want it done in haste, will take a step back for a second before they expend their money, which we obviously as a commission are happy to take to get something in to better the park for our patrons, will say they don't have the second piece of this puzzle that's needed to do the first piece, so we're not moving forward. I think it's like a natural, like,
Well, I don't want to assume that things are natural because okay. Can we say that as a process of timeline, that no ground is going to be broken for septic tank, for the building of a septic tank and toilet facilities until fundings are secured?
that's fine.
Or, okay, because if that's really like, I just don't want construction to start. This is, we don't want it with the skate park, right?
Funding for the septic, we have to specify funding for the septic,
Okay.
like
so-
for the septic and bathhouse, not
And
funding
bathhouse, okay.
for the
So we-
overall master plan.
Okay, so we can make this as a, like, it sounds like we're in this, I just want to make sure there is no assumed, interpretation that people can go break ground on septic tank,
I'm
because
going,
they got that.
I got a, Bill, I got a shovel. I'll be there in the morning. You bring your trucks.
All right, so can we, it sounds like, and maybe this is a discussion for when Dave comes back, maybe the next meeting. Can we say that the timeline and process for installation of septic tank and toilet facilities on Marshall Park at the area shown, either a master plan for the septic tank or shown on Greg Roy's plan, will not happen until funding has been secured for the construction of both
Yes.
pieces? Okay.
Yeah.
Could that be a motion, Chris? Are you up for, are you okay with that?
Yeah, the only, it seems like we're a little unclear. The only thing we're unclear on is it was a mix of kind of impressions of the septic system itself can go in before the building funding is secured, or it can't. And I think we're unclear as to whether
We can
that can or
revisit
can't.
this. We can revisit this, but
And we can
Karen
take a vote
wasn't-
tonight. It doesn't
right.
matter. I mean, we can vote on it again next. I mean, we can do it.
Right,
We already
but
rescinded
here-
a vote tonight, and we're
Right.
voting it. We made another vote, so we can do
Well-
it again. It just, I don't know if we
I-
want to just wait and table this and get clarification of, can we put a septic system in without the
This is,
structure being funded, or can't we?
Well,
this
And
is my,
I think
this is,
it would maybe change the vote a little bit. I don't know.
this is where I think that the Board of Health will sort of reconsider their hastiness of wanting to get this done. To say, we're not, if we require a bathroom facility to be put in within X number of months or years of the septic being put in, and they don't have the money, why would they dump the remainder of their money? Plus, although I do agree that it could be between $45,000 and $50,000 in a residential, for a septic of a residential nature like this, or a private project, it's going to be more than that with our with the wages that we have to pay, because we're a municipality. But I am also not sure that's taken into consideration 2022 prices. I'm not even 100% sure they have enough money of their own to put in this septic.
I second that.
So although 95,000 seems like a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, prevailing wage needs to be taken into consideration. And we haven't done a project of this nature in town to know what a ballpark figure is in 2022.
So I just want to make it clear, like, just as was with the skate park, that we're not agreeing that nothing's going to be built until we have funding. That's it. I just want us as a commission, which I think we still have a quorum, to have that voted on tonight, and whatever happens will happen with that constraint. And we can make a plan for how to get that. We don't have that plan now. and I don't think it should be, by the way, Chris, if what you're looking for, we could use that money to get schematic designs done, but Wola is not a engineering. We would need to hire engineering company.
Yeah, I was merely, I was assuming the money was tied to that 50 grand was dedicated to
No,
working with,
right,
you know, what we had secured it for. So
okay,
if it's not and it can be used in another capacity, then so we should, you know, I'm really indicating we can use that funding to apply to
Yeah.
this project and see what where, you know, what's it going to get us? Where are we going to get to with what
Right.
funding we have left, that we can apply it now to move this process forward, whether it's with whoever it,
right.
you know,
So-
needs to be with.
Can we have so I'm willing to make a motion that it is our desires or wish, I don't know. I guess the motion is until funding has been secured for a complete septic installation and toilets facility, that no construction will start. That's my motion.
So can repeat that again, because
Oh, it's gonna be a little different now.
I'm writing, typing at the same time, so.
Okay, I make a motion that as regards to Marshall Park septic tank and toilet facilities, no construction starts until funding has been secured for the entire project of septic tank and toilet facilities. So I'm being very specific.
Septic tanks, septic system and toilet facilities?
Septic system, I guess, and toilet facility.
I can second that.
Okay. All right, any discussion?
I'd just like us to get clarification on, you know, whether, you know, a septic can go in without a structure being funded or not. Just, again, it just seems like it's gray. We're getting two different opinions.
Well, and in the same
that.
meeting, if you're,
Yeah.
well, Bill was in that meeting. Bill, do you recall what they said? Please.
I think they, excuse me. I think they said the septic system could go in, but the building should follow it rather quickly. They didn't say how quick. It wasn't, there was no timeline given, days, months, or years. They didn't say. But they did say it should follow quickly.
And I heard that, and I also heard Jim mentioning that you need to keep the permit live to I don't know, recertify the permit or something.
Yes,
So-
they would not sign off on it until the building was complete and it was hooked to the septic system.
Do we know, like, what's the cost of keeping the permit alive? Do we know? If it's, or,
Usually, usually that's kind of stuff's waived when it's a municipality, dealing with a municipality.
Okay.
I mean, it's possible they wouldn't, but, you know, like if we went to get a permit for construction of a new, you know, snack shack over at McNally Field,
Valley,
I would expect that the building department would waive the
waive the
fee
fee,
for
okay.
that. Because it would be just one group, one government organization paying another within the
But-
same government.
You know, we run the risk, Chris, to have a septic built that we don't, without securing the funds for building the toilet facilities. We run the risk that the Board of Health membership changes, which it seems like is going to change. And the next Board of Health comes in and says, don't renew the permit, and we have to refill that, you have to fill that septic tank. Because you can't just leave a septic tank open without.
Well, we run at the same time, we run the risk. I mean, they can change can they change their vote to that 105,000 coming to Marshall Park?
Say that again?
Can they change their vote? I mean, we're talking about, you know, we run the risk of the Board of Health changing hands and they say, don't renew the permit and we fill in a septic system or whatever again. But do we run the same risk of the Board of Health changing and they decide to divert that funding to some other project that is proposed to them?
It's,
So-
I don't, well, they, I don't know. I don't know. If,
Right, so we're voting, like, that's my concern. We're voting on something we don't really have answers to.
I think we,
Like, like, if there's a chance we lose funding for a septic system, if the Board of Health changed, membership, and there's a chance we lose funding for the septic system, I'd rather not wait to have building structure funds available and get the septic system put in, so
So-
that it's there, and then we get the building.
so hold on, are you really willing to say, let's build a septic tank there, leave it open, nothing attached to it, and just be this without like securing the funds
Well,
for the toilet facility?
But I think it's, they're kind of going to go hand in hand. We're going to move this process along.
Right,
I'm not saying let's drop a septic system in and then
so,
like,
I
let's
mean,
just sit back and watch it, watch it up on the hill,
right,
like, so we need to move move it along for the building funding is for, the structure funding as well. But I would hate to lose funding that's been dedicated to us for this project if there's a chance that could happen. And
So-
we decide to wait to secure funding for everything.
we're not securing funding for us, everything. I think the
No,
motion
for
is
the
very
whole,
clear.
for this whole project, for the
No, for
septic
the-
project, the septic
For
project,
this.
right?
I
Your
don't
motion is
even
for the
know-
building and the septic system, correct?
Right, because one that can't go without the other. So why are we?
Correct, but if we could move forward with why we're working on securing the funding for the building structure, the structure of the bathhouse or whatever you want to call it, my concern would be they change their vote and we don't have the funding for a septic system.
I don't think that's gonna change. All I'm saying is the same
Well,
thing
you're
as the
saying, yeah, but
skate
you're
park.
saying that they could vote to change their mind on a permit and not renew the
Right.
permit.
I
So
mean,
the
it's
same
not
thing would apply,
about
in my
them.
opinion, the same thing would apply. But you brought it up.
No,
You know
I'm
what saying?
saying
Like, you brought
about
up that if
us.
their Board of Health membership changed, they
You-
could decide to
Well, if
re-
we leave
not renew the
something,
permit and say, hey, you guys got to fill in that septic. We're not going to put it in now. So in the same principle, I think that's what I'm trying to just get clarification on. If their membership changed and another project came to fruition with the Board of Health and they say, hey, you know what? Things are dragging over at Marshall Park. We're going to divert this 95 grand that we have left, and that's going to go over to this project over here at
This-
XYZ.
let's
whatever.
just focus on us. This vote's about us.
You brought up the fact that the membership of the Board of Health could change and they could
If
not renew a
you
permit.
build, hold on.
So
just take a deep breath. Hold
it's
on.
the other side of the same issue.
No, this is not this other side. Hold on. Take it. Let's just.
Okay.
All right. This is a vote about us. Are we willing to break ground on a septic system without having funding for the toilets facility? That's what it is. That's all we can control. This is the same thing we are with the skate park. So for example, if the skate park, we have said that we don't want them to start a project and not have money to finish the project, right? We want to have a clause that would say, if you don't finish within that amount of time, you need to put things back to where they were. That's all. So are we willing to break grounds for septic tank without having?
I think my question is valid though. Like you brought up the fact that if the Board of Health membership changed, if we went ahead and decided to put a septic system in and the Board of Health changed and they say, we're not going to renew the permit. So now we have to fill in the septic system.
No,
Okay.
but
The other side of that's exactly what you said. So the other
No,
side of that
Chris.
equation is if we don't go ahead and put the septic system in and the Board of Health membership changes and another project comes to fruition for them, are they able to take the money that they already voted for Marshall Park
they
and
can't.
then take it and divert it to a different project instead, in which
They-
case we're out the money that could make it a vast improvement. That's not.
A hole in the ground that's not a vast improvement. I'm asking you, are you willing to build a hole in the ground that is a septic system, which is a tank,
Why we continue to work for funding to put a building in? Yeah,
without
I'm
any
leaning that way.
timeline of when that could actually happen?
I would,
without guarantees that
with a concern that we could lose that funding that's
I think Chris's
dedicated to the
concerns are
park is,
valid. I think
you know.
Chris's concerns are
we
very
can
valid.
vote, we can vote, that's fine.
But that
Yeah,
said, I can't imagine, this is where I feel like it's a natural penalty or whatever, casualty or however you want to say it. I just can't imagine the Board of Health is going to move ahead and putting a septic tank, a septic system in the ground at Marshall Park if we have no leads on funding for a bathhouse, but they need that in order to close.
Which is where my question came to be at the start of this portion of the discussion was we're voting on something we don't have a definitive answer on. So I would think we don't vote on it tonight, get a definitive answer from the Board of Health. Can a septic system go in without a building concept there?
What I don't understand, Chris, with all due respect, this is not about them because we cannot control them. They can vote to rescind the funds tomorrow. But what I want to make sure is that we don't start a project, building something that we don't have money to finish. Just as we don't wish that for the skate park, we shouldn't do that for anything else.
I want to make sure we don't lose the funding that's available to us. It's already dedicated to us for this.
And you'd be willing to put a septic tank that it's just there?
Because we're going to move, because the plan is to move forward with putting a bathhouse there. I just, that's my concern.
Okay, you know what? We're gonna have to go on record on this because I can totally see.
It's a
the Board
vote
of
and second.
Health-
It's been voted
I
and
can
seconded.
totally
We
see,
can
I can
vote.
totally see the Board of Health with how many times they use the word haste. If you ask me, yes, I can see them going there tomorrow and vote and install it, and there's nothing stopping them. That's the
Can I
thing.
make a
That is the thing.
recommendation since
No, there
we're.
is because we don't have any engineering plans for septic, like complete system in there yet. We
You
still
don't
need
want
to
to put
get
it,
more
you
work
don't
done.
want to put it something that says, right now, we don't want to do this, and next month we want to change. By next month, there's a great chance things will be broken ground and we had no say.
No, because that's actually not true because they can't just go in and break ground.
That was our previous vote.
Even if it was our previous, the previous vote didn't give them.
Permission to put a shovel in the ground.
Exactly. There's still a process that has to be followed to put a shovel into the ground.
It's-
There's still things that need to be signed off. We as a Parks Commission has to give permission for this work to actually get done. There's documents that have to be signed. It doesn't matter. We could vote anything. There's still other pieces of the puzzle that have to be put into place to be signed off on. That's like saying we have a master plan and that's not giving anybody permission to go in and start that project tomorrow because there's other things that need to get sorted out. All right, all of this said, as we sit here at the hour-and-a-half mark on agenda item 13, which means that there's a whole bunch of stuff we haven't done, I think we should table this discussion for the next meeting. I think that we should get the answers that we need from the Board of Health. And if we need to, since none of their meetings are ever recorded, invite them to our meeting so that it can be a recorded meeting. We can get their answers recorded so that we can get all of the questions answered on, would they put in a septic system if we're nowhere near having the funding for a bath facility? Let's get some of those questions and see what those answers are so that we're not breaking ground unless you're planning on signing off on something that some of us that you're not going to bring in front of us. There's nothing. I mean, we had this, if you remember earlier this year, I had to bring the Conservation Commission paperwork to you guys so that I could sign it. Like that stuff's going to have to be done. So building permits need to be obtained. There's things, it's not happening next month. Nobody's going in with a shovel next month.
I don't think you're in the meeting that Bill and I were. The word haste must have been used 300 times.
It doesn't matter what they say.
So I'd like clarification of their haste. What is their haste?
Oh, that's
Like
that
we're voting on something that we don't have complete answers for.
Right,
So I'm supporting what Karen is saying, which is my first point, was we're voting on something that we don't have, that's very gray. Like, let's bring them to a meeting or get the answers that we need
Okay,
before we cast a vote on something that isn't
So-
happening tomorrow.
so what is our next step? So that you guys want to do with this? Because here's what I have concerns. I have concerns, there's a lot of things happening that is not happening. That, like, I went to the meeting that Bill went, I went back to their meeting. It seems two disconnected worlds with no clear answer, and Dave promising that he's going to deliver the funds. That does not buy candy in the corner store. Like, you know, God love his wishes for that, but just doesn't. You know, don't we feel there is a lot happening? Like, and we're willing to just leave it at that? Is that
I think we're beating a dead horse tonight.
okay? So what is
I-
their
I-
next step?
I'd like to get clarification from the Board of Health on, you know, kind of their impression of what the steps would be, you know, in terms of
Are we
septic
willing?
installation and what's required, what are all the requirements needed or to put in a septic system? Are we required to have a plan for a building? Are we required to have, you know, certain,
Okay,
you know, are we required to have funding secured to put in a building? If we're required to have funding secured for a building to put in order to put it in a septic, the vote's moot anyway, because nothing can happen until we have the funding secured to put in a building. So we
I
don't
don't
need to
think-
vote on it. It's just, it's what's required.
that's not going to be.
But
a
we don't have the
requirement.
answer. Like
That's
we've
fine.
heard two different things.
All right,
So I don't know.
well, let's move on. So do we want to get these clarifications that you all need? What is that? What steps would you like to have taken?
I think we need to have a conversation with, and I think with the Board of Health, and I think it needs to happen anyway as two full commissions or two
Okay.
full boards.
So I can tell you, they don't do Zoom meetings. Are we willing to do a in-person meeting at the town hall?
I have no problem doing an in-person meeting, although
I
I-
think what Karen's right, it should be recorded. Like, I don't know.
it,
Like,
but even if it's at town hall, they can be in person and we can be on the screen if we need to be.
I'm okay meeting in person.
I'm
Okay,
fine meeting in person. We just have to, if we're gonna do town hall, we need to finagle that schedule.
okay. What is the timeline? So what we're being asked is to have a joint meeting of Board of Health and Parks within the next 2 months.
I'd say 2 months.
Okay. I'll work on the date and send the dates out.
Okay.
thank you.
All right. Bill, thank you for your participation. So I appreciate it. I think
You're
Rob-
welcome.
He's
I
on
think
the
Rob-
agenda. Do we want to just go to line item 12 for he and Rob?
Well, I
sure.
just,
Just
so
see if
that's
there's reports and
generic,
updates
that's
and we know.
generic, so he may
That's
not have
genetic.
anything.
Yeah.
But-
I think the other stuff we're gonna kind of fly through. Bill, I don't think we need Bill because I think Rob will have the updates that we need.
Thank you,
All
Bill.
right. Thank
Do
you,
we
Bill.
have I think the only thing that I saw in your email, Anna, was Anna, excuse me, was the mowing contract in your email? whatnot? Did you
No,
make
it was
mention that in your
not.
email ahead of the agenda items? I think you made some mention of something.
One,
There is a mowing update. Rob is going to give us the update on that, which was
Okay,
mowing.
mowing schedule, reconcile contract with quote and ensure companies followed.
Yeah, do you want to
okay.
comment on that, Bill? I can read it out loud if you want.
Yeah, what is your question?
Just obviously we were all copied on a bunch of emails with a mow schedule and all that kind of deal, and the thought that it maybe wasn't mowed twice a week as it should have been, and things of that nature, and just making sure that I guess that's being addressed. Or obviously we're kind of in like we're not in the season, we're mowing twice right now, but just come in the fall again and things of that, where it's required to be mowed twice. And then if we're keeping the same contract with them, making sure that we have, I guess, assurances that it's being mowed twice a week when it's supposed to be.
Right, so when I first started getting a few complaints about mowing or lack thereof, I called in the contractor, their supervisor, had a meeting with him in my office. He's very willing to work with us. Anytime I've talked with him and asked for something, he's jumped right on it. So I don't want to say I don't have time to watch the mowing every day, but every week, but I don't. So I spot check it when I can. And I kind of rely on other people who use the fields to call me if there's an issue. But going forward, I have a good rapport with the company now. And I think things have improved since I brought him in. I haven't got a single call since then.
Yeah.
So I think we'll be all right going forward. And again, if anybody sees a field not getting done, or they're not doing the weed whacking they should call me right away, and I'll get it straightened out.
Bill, when that contract, I know this is early because
Mhm.
they just re-signed that contract, but when that contract goes out again, can you either have it run by the park commission as a whole, or sit down with whoever is interested? Because there's a lot of discrepancies in there on how, as a park commission, we operate our fields and what's in that contract, including like the one that comes to mind is the town beach. The town beach will be cleaned by X date. Well, then we've got 6 weeks, and actually it might have even been more than that, before the beach is actually opened. There was another one in there about, the fields are used for, in these 2 seasons. And it's like, no, that's actually not accurate. So it'd be nice to make sure that it coincides with what Parks Commission policy actually is for the use of our fields.
Yeah, definitely. I think the next time we put it out to bid, it does need to be cleaned up a little bit. And yeah, I can definitely work with the Parks Commission on that.
Thank you.
Do we have a means of address? I mean, it sounds, obviously you're building a good rapport with them and so forth. So it sounds like we maybe have a means of sort of addressing some of those concerns going into next beach season and things like that, that we can kind of work with them on that kind of deal.
Yeah. So like I said, that he has responded to
agreeable.
me every time I've asked him to do something. So I don't see him changing that. He sat with me, he said he wanted to do a good job, and he picked it up, So I think we'll be all right going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Bill. All right, have a good night. So next item on the agenda is discussion regarding joint meeting select board on August 2nd. So we have a meeting coming up with the select board where we are hoping we can present them the Marshall Park plan, the concept design. And we got to come up with a plan on how we're going to present and what we would like to say and do there. I'm willing to do some work, some legwork on that. But what is that we feel we want to present?
What's our, so what's our end objective? Just providing them information of
So
kind of where we're at in the process, and I guess like where are we? Do we have a goal? Do we have a goal to get out of this meeting? Like what are we working towards, I guess?
So the select board holds the wallet along with the town manager. Anything that we want to funding, even from our state rep and so forth, usually needs to come from within, from their offices. So presenting them a good case that the Marshall Park plan is an important plan and should be prioritized and funded is important for them to put that in front of them. Like I said earlier, they had 200 grand for their park for engineering costs. My first question is, well, how do I get you to convince them to spend that money on our plan? So that should be the goal. But it's also an opportunity to invite other members of the community to come and see. I think we did that as a Parks Commission, but the sports select board has more viewership than us. And I think, you know, we have a really good plan. I think we can get a support from town residents and maybe some user groups that could come and say, hey, this is important. We should prioritize this. In the end of the day, we can make a motion in town meeting for getting the next phase done, but having their support is how really things are going to pass. That is also ARPA fund that I think Lunenburg got over $3 million. That is going to be distributed at the complete discretion of the select board. It does not need to go through town meeting. So right there, it could be money that could be used for our next phase. So having a good meeting and making the case for our project should be funded, I think is the goal.
So I agree with you, Anna. I also think that our final plan has never, if individual members of the select board have gone on and looked at it and viewed it, that's awesome. Maybe they've watched some of our old videos, like that's great. I think presenting to them what we as a park commission narrowed things down to, giving an explanation of the different areas of that master plan and the benefit that we can get from it, like, you know, having the grass area in front of the bathhouse type area, having pickleball, you know, letting them see that plan going into, you know, explaining the next phase of what we need for funding to make that next thing happen. You know, maybe throwing it out there to them that, you know, we're looking at some grants. We need assistance in obtaining some of those grants because I'm not sure any of us has any grant writing experience. And then, you know, saying to them, we know that there are funds available, may be available within town, especially through ARPA, that we would like consideration for. But I think showing the plan and, you know, letting them visually see it, and, you know, if we have some folks from town that support this project, if they, you know, would be willing to join us. So we have we can show that we have the backing of you know, different user groups. I think that this sounds sort of cliche, I guess, but I feel like the project, when you look at it, sort of sells itself. I mean, it will be a beautiful complex when it's done, and the draw and the benefit to the members of our community. I mean, that to me is a given, and it's a no-brainer that this project should be, you know, higher up on a priority list to get funded. So I think even just going the basic route of explaining the you know, the lay of the land of the master plan, you know, pulling it up on the big screen and, you know, letting everybody take a look. Maybe we can get some copies made so that everybody can have their own little individual plan of Marshall Park, you know, what the future may look like. You know, and maybe they'll have some feedback too on, you know, phases or money or, you know, it's things like that too.
Yeah,
I think you're
so-
right. It will sell itself, and you kind of see what's there and all the different aspects that are offered. And I think, Anna, you're correct as well, that it does open this up to a wider audience than we've seen at our meetings. I think we've had some good participation in our meetings with this, but it certainly would open it up to new eyes. That, you know, gives us some. I know we've been to, you know, a couple of our meetings here, and it was, you know, the skate park all of a sudden came out of the blue to certain, you know, residents of town that had no idea there was a skate park. You know, so I think this opens up more new eyes to the project, folks that haven't noticed. You know, and kind of go from there.
Okay, what do we want to do when we're there? Like, what do we want to present outside would we want to speak to it? Like, we gotta kind of have more or less a high level. I had thought about getting, I can tell you the part that I had hoped to do. I had planned to maybe create a little flyer and distribute to all my neighbors at Chestnut Street. And I think, that we have a big problem on Chestnut Street with parking during games. It's a safety concern. It is, it's something that affects people living on that street. So I was gonna ask, people from Chestnut Street to come and participate in the meeting and speak in favor. I had also thought about stopping at the senior center and do a quicker presentation for them and talking about what's in line for them and ask them to maybe come to the meeting as well. I was gonna reach out to Michelle from the Boys and Girls. So I can do a lot of the reaching out and trying to get people to join us in favor. But I think we need to have someone also planning to present the project and highlight some of these things. And that person, I don't know if I can undertake everything. I don't have to do all the reaching out either.
I'm more than willing to talk to the Boys and Girls Club. My kids are both there all summer for camp and all that kind of stuff too. So I mean, I'm certainly willing to
Well, maybe you can help me go down
talk
up
with
and down.
talk
Chestnut
with
Street.
them and talk with some folks and divvy that up a little bit. I mean, hopefully the baseball, little league is in support, hopefully, and we
Yep.
can get someone from them to be supportive. We have a new athletic director at the high school now.
Okay.
I was part of the selection committee on that for initial interviews and so forth. So I'm happy to reach out to him and maybe share the plan with him from a high school sports standpoint.
So do you want to, Chris, so we don't have to maybe rehash, kind of make all this plan, you and I can take lead on reaching out to the community and can divide and conquer after the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Karen, do you want to, since you started this project, do you want to present it to the board?
So my only concern there is I'm not sure I'm gonna be in person.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my only concern, and I wonder if it would be better presented in person than
Right.
on a screen. And I won't know for sure till, let me see. Let me look at my calendar. It probably will be the middle of next week. The meeting's August 2nd, right?
Right. So not next week, but
Yeah.
the week after.
Yeah, a week from Tuesday. I would know the middle of next week. I mean, I can certainly, get some packets prepared. I would just probably print the last few pages of the WOLA presentation.
Okay.
Work on that kind of stuff for sure.
I think there are some community benefits that the WOLA presentation didn't list. Specifically like multi-generational use. I think that's a really big one that their presentation, I think they talk about it, but they didn't really word it that way. The other thing is really the improvement for Chestnut Street. That is a problem that the town has had. And I don't think WOLA knew about it to make that as a highlight. I actually think the WOLA presentation is good. I just felt like it missed those 2 points.
No,
that they didn't know.
when I said WOLA presentation, I really just want to show them the plan, what we
Okay.
sort of narrowed it.
So let me ask you something. Do you think you can put it together a presentation with points that we would like to make there? And if you're not in person, one of us can take the lead?
Yeah, I'll have to have my husband help me because my PowerPoint skills, they're pretty nowadays, but yeah, we can.
I think, if you put everything on Word, like, I mean, pretty much it's
Yeah,
it's
no,
not- yeah.
I I mean, if you want me to engrave it on wood, that's more my style.
That would be unique and memorable.
It would be
Yeah.
unique and memorable.
Oh, can you do the design in wood or maybe leather?
I could do, based on how much stuff I've got going on in the basement lately, I could probably do anything. Could probably build you a house at this rate. But yeah, I'll work on it and I'll get something together and then I'll run it by, like, I'll take the, I'll put it together and then I can, run it by you and see what else needs to be added.
Okay, and then if you're not in person, then one of us can take the lead on presenting in person. But okay, all right, that sounds like a good plan. Karen, do you have
Probably
the?
touch base with Pat and Dave and just make sure they're in the loop on
Yep.
kind of what we're doing. I'm sure Dave would assist with outreach and Pat, I'm certain would. Pat did text me as well. He had sent a message, but I'm not sure it got through to anybody that he might join if he's able. He was stuck in Ashburnham.
Yeah.
But he might join at some
Okay.
point. Sorry, just as an
Yeah.
aside.
Karen, do you have contact for the Lunenburg Phillies
Yeah.
gentleman?
Mhm.
Okay. Do you,
Not
Chris?
in town. That's the only,
Well, but he's.
I
sorry,
don't have
speak to me.
contact for him. Remind me his name again, Karen.
Joe Ruth.
Joe. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm around the corner. I can always pop over there some evening and
Okay.
All
Right.
we can talk. Like we can, Anna, you and I can
Okay. Just
divvy
divide.
that. And,
Okay.
maybe that's one that I can just bounce over there some night when they're practicing or whatnot.
Yeah.
See. Or
Okay.
Karen, pass along info and I can reach out and make a plan to meet him or something.
Okay, and Chris, you and I can make
Yeah.
a list of the people that have thought, and you can then email it back, and I can put the flyer together for Chestnut Street. You can, and I literally have thought about knocking on everybody's door, and I might knocking on your door, like, I don't actually know where you live. Okay, so that's a good plan.
Just beyond Chestnut Street, Highland
Yeah.
Street. Though.
Oh, you're on Highland?
Yeah, I'm on Highland.
Oh, I thought you were Chestnut. All right.
I'm not on Greg Roy's door. Greg's on Highland, right across.
Oh, I know where Greg is for sure. Okay, any other comments on that? I think we have more or less devised the plan. Okay, wetland flagging status. Do we know
It's done. It's done. It
It's
was done
done?
as Friday. Yep.
Do
Check.
we need any kind of documentation that's done properly, certified? Like,
I have no idea. All I know is that Matt Marrow, the former conservation agent, had gone down and he had said he'd do it before he retired. He didn't, I guess, get to it. It was on a short list of things that he needed to get done. So he was back in town and did it on Friday. We can certainly send a message to our new conservation agent, Nadia something or other, and
Okay.
see if we need anything.
okay,
Because I guess I don't understand how it goes from how does it go from flags being put up to then
Documented.
document?
right. Yeah,
Like someone
that's
could move a flag, right?
right. Like, what does, I guess the question is, what does wetland flagging
Achieve.
is, and how is it certified? Nothing is something until it gets certified. You're not born until you have a birth
Do you want me
certificate.
do you want me to call or
Sure.
email? it? Okay.
Okay, Karen. What we need to know is this, what does it need to be done to be done? Okay. All right, Marshall Park Survey, IFB draft review recommendations or suggestions. So the town manager, it sent me the draft. And she's she's open to hearing feedbacks, if we have any.
Well, this is not where my knowledge base is.
Right,
So, if like we're talking formatting, like or making sure that there's dates in there, that I can do, but I don't know, as I'm reading through this, I mean, I've read them before because of the nature of my family's business, but I don't know what is supposed to be in there, what's not. So I don't really have much to weigh in on the substance of it.
Okay.
The
we
wetland
ha-
piece is in there, but the wetland piece is done.
Well-
Or you think it's done, but does it need to be redone with this?
Well,
kinda?
we need to figure out, yeah, so it actually sounds like a conversation needs to be had with Heather and possibly, definitely conservation agent, but maybe even with Heather to see, because if the flags are just up and then those flags need to get documented to be on paper, maybe it still needs to be part of the,
Of the master, of
IFP.
the plan, yeah.
Okay, so what is are you gonna bring those two items together,
yeah,
Karen?
I'm
Okay,
gonna put those two items together.
all right, okay, so Karen, how about you follow up with Heather and say we reviewed,
Why don't I do this? Because here's what I don't want to have happen, Anna, is you've had discussions with her on the IFB recently, right?
I just requested her the draft in case we had some feedback and she sent it to me.
Okay,
That's all we
so that's
requested.
all you've had, okay. I just didn't, if you had gone deeper with her, I was gonna say, let me get the information from conservation and pass it on to you. But let me get this information from conservation. I think I'll send it in an email to her so that I can take her email and forward it on to Heather and say, there's wetlands flagging in the IFB. This is what was done last Friday. How does this coincide with what you have in the IFB, what's been done versus what still needs to get done? Because again, that's where I don't know how it goes from being little sticks in the ground to being
Right, to being
documents
part
on
of
paper,
these,
which I would
survey.
assume, which is what I would assume the next, like, one of the next phases of our project would be, because they're gonna have to do a design, and they need to know for sure where they're going. It's not guessing anymore or assuming.
I guess another question I had would be so the flagging is done, and if there needs to be some sort of certification documentation process with those, how is there a timeline at which the flagging is only good for? Like, does the flagging expire, I guess?
I'm making
I
note.
I don't know, it kind of seems funny, but I wonder if it,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
a flag can be picked up and moved, and so
Yeah.
how long is the flag in the ground good for before we?
and I'll tell you one thing, I didn't see any flags, abutting the pond towards my house.
I don't know how it's done.
I don't know if,
On your side or the other,
on my
or
side,
looking across? So it
On my
wouldn't
side.
on, oh, well, no, I guess it would, because the
it
property
would.
line is that, yeah, you're right. I was thinking it would be the other side, but no.
Well, there's, I remember when we were buying this house, and I'm curious to see how the survey is gonna play out, because I remember reading, because these are old deeds, right? I mean, the house has been around forever. And there was a part of the deed called the border of the pond, like 10 something X number of feet from the edge of the pond. But the edge of the pond kind of changes and has changed a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there are other things that they can do, which they might even look at my deed to see what the measurements from the street might be and other things of that nature. But
I
I
wonder
would
if the flagging only corresponds to the, like the Marshall Park land side.
well,
You know what I like?
right, but the survey should be of the whole property.
Correct. I'm just wondering if the flagging that was done, the wetlands flagging that was
Oh,
done, only
right.
correlated to the side in which the actual Marshall Park property touches wetlands.
Right.
You know what I mean? As opposed to
Yeah.
your, like the far side of Marshall, the east side of Marshall Pond. I guess yeah, that would be east side, I guess.
Okay.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe I don't know. I'm
Right.
making that up.
I expected to see something on this side. If
Yeah.
there was any, because Marshall Pond,
Maybe he didn't do that side. There's always a possibility that he only did the main park side and didn't get.
right. But
where
then,
the plan kind of touches the the property.
wetland flags isn't complete. And
Right.
then there should
So
be.
I'm just going by I'm just going by Dave, who had sent a text after he left saying, I forgot to tell you guys that Matt Marrow said that wetlands flagging was completed last Friday,
We just,
but I
We
will
just-
follow up.
okay, all right, and the only feedback that we see as regard the IFB is regarding the wetland flagging, that you're going to bring the two notions together. And we, as of this time, we don't have any feedback. So basically, after you're done, Karen, we can ask Heather to move forward with publishing the, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll wait to hear from you on
Okay.
that, and then or you can reach out to her and say, please move forward with that.
Yep, I will, what I'll do is I will get some answers from Nadia, and then I will go back to Heather with those answers and try to, and we'll go from there.
Okay, all right. All right, next item on the agenda is capital planning for 2024. So I had a meeting with Heather. I have had a couple meetings with Heather. And I talked with her about, us like being able to having, and with that meeting was with her and Bill. And I appreciate it. Just trying to create a communication between us as a park commissioner, who we are responsible for parks, and her as the day-to-day operations. And, some big projects that we have coming up. And some of the things that I said, she's like, capital planning. I was like, okay, so how do we do that? And she said, let's do capital planning. So what she asked us to do is to do the work of capital planning for parks, if we want to. Otherwise, it's left for Bill to do it, because he's the one responsible for capital planning for anything related to DPW. So I would like us to take her up on that, because I think we can look at the parks and see if there's any larger project that needs to be done. And then she sent me the forms that we would need to fill it up. So I think the reality is, if we do this lag work, it would be much easier for us to get funding for things that it needs. But this would be extra work for this commission. So I don't know if this is something we wanted to do or not, but I do appreciate that she was open to receiving this kind of information from us.
So I think that there's some pretty straightforward capital projects that need to be considered to add to any plan, whether it be, submission to a capital plan in the, for next year, or a 10-year plan. But one of those that would come to mind would be the McNally Snack Shack building, because we vote to demolition that at the last meeting. So there's that. And also at Fitzgerald Field, there used to be a playground structure there, a couple of them, and they were removed because they weren't up to code. But over at that field, there's no cover. There's nothing. If there was a
I thought they had dugouts covered.
well, they have the dugouts, but I mean for like if there was a sudden rain downpour in the middle of a game, and so like a shelter, and if there was some sort of shelter there, it also allows for other types of programming to be run there. So
Right.
that would be something that could be considered going forward. There's I think some of them, like the 10-year plan is going to need to include things like, are we on that agenda item, or did I jump ahead?
No, no, it's one right after the other. I think the 2024 list of projects is the one that I think we need to work on immediately.
Yep.
And I think as we work on that immediately, we will kind of come up with a list for the 10-year plan.
So
That's
I
what
think
see it.
immediate needs, beach house and the McNally structure. I think McNally's on sewer, so that may even be something that we could put up some sort of bathroom facility. But with this has to come prices. So with this,
Right.
we either need to have, if we ever hire a facilities director, or if we can
We
utilize.
do have a facilities director.
Well, if we have one, then Parks is being moved over to the facilities director.
But I like Bill. so
What's
I'm gonna
that?
keep working with Bill.
No. I know, but so, yeah. Yeah, so at some point, like Rob's position will move over under the new facilities director.
Right.
Um,
So how about for this, so how about for the 2024 capital planning? How about on our next meeting, we bring in a wish list of projects, and then we can prioritize that list, and maybe we can choose which ones we're going to pursue, and then do the homework on the ones that we say this is a high priority. Because that's how capital planning works, is that they start with a list of priorities and then they fund it according to priorities.
the other thing is we have to make sure that those projects meet a capital
Right.
expenditure.
They have, they, on their page, on the town website, they do have a list of,
Yep, so it's, I know it because,
oh, yeah,
yeah, call me the nerd. So it's gonna be a tangible item and it needs to be over $20,000. So it has to be $20,000 or more.
I have a question about that.
Yeah,
It does not need to be a tangible item, because the survey is not, is design a tangible item?
well, our design wasn't done through, capital, was it?
Was it? Yeah. And the survey is also,
So this, I don't know when they bumped this number up. I don't know when they bumped it, so they could have changed it, but I think they mean, you can't spend $20,000 on Bitcoin,
right.
that sort of thing. So it's $20,000 or more, and it needs to have a useful life of 3 years or longer. So,
Well, and I see where you are there. They also have, the follow criteria used to assess priority, capital spending requests: safety mandates, crisis need, effectiveness, and ability to fund.
Yeah.
So I think when we come back with that list, we can quickly put it through these, and then just do the homework on the ones that we feel like will
yep,
pass.
and they have to go in with the money figure. So, and it shouldn't be just a guess at a money figure. And
Right.
I'll use the library as the example on this one, is that, a few years back, they were gonna replace the carpet. So they had a price to replace the carpet, and that's what they included. They didn't include the price of moving the books. So the library projects actually sat on hold for a while, and I'm not sure it ever got completed because of that. So it needs to have the entirety of the expenses
good.
cost.
So should we say that is a good approach for this process? Okay, first question is, are we willing to take on this piece?
I don't think it's optional.
Well, it is. We haven't done, so far we have not been part of this process,
So
and we've been left out. And I think
left out, but it's not genuine to say we haven't been part of the process, because we've gone to our DPW directors in the past, and that's how the survey, how all this stuff got on there.
Right, sorry.
Working with it.
That was unnecessarily harsh.
No, not hard, but we didn't take a super proactive group approach to it. We attempted to, and we had some ideas that we forwarded on, but then let the DPW director run with it to figure out the pricing. And that very well may be what we do on this side, saying to the DPW director or whoever we fall under when we go to do this, these are the projects we would like put into the capital plan request for 2024. Please let us know what else you need from us, but these numbers need to be filled in, and you're the go-to guy to fill those numbers in.
So I think, we can probably do, and we're gonna get into the next agenda item, which is gonna be pending work to be done. My thought on some of this is, so I agree with what you're saying, Karen. But if it's not something that's going to be their specialty, and And because of that, it's gonna fall in their priority list. I wouldn't mind trying to do some legwork.
I don't
to-
mind either. I guess it's just, you want to make sure that,
We're also not stepping their toes, if you will.
well, not even stepping their toes, but so prevailing wage, for example. There are some companies out there, and I'll use the bathhouse. If I was to contact my neighbor's construction company to have the bathhouse renovations done, and if they're not familiar with prevailing wage, and I as a park commissioner wasn't familiar with prevailing wage, the figure that came back is actually, it's pretty much invalid because it doesn't include prevailing wage, which can be 30 to 40% more. So sometimes we don't have that knowledge base of what's needed to get the prices on the municipal side, because again, we're a municipal
Right.
group. So
So
yeah.
I agree with you. What I'm saying is I want us to come up with a list, and I am willing, like, let's do
You're
the
willing
first
to
part.
do it, which is fine. It's
Good.
that's all I'm saying to you is, even if we do the work on our own.
It may not be
probably-
right.
No, and I don't say I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. If we do it on our own, I think it still needs to be run by, whether it be a facilities person or Bill, before it gets put into the final capital plan request for us, so that we know.
Still need some
Right.
help with funding costs and things of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how we're pricing that out. I mean, we're gonna have to rely on,
Right.
counterparts to help us with some of that.
Yeah.
Can we, Karen, you
definitely.
brought up the shelter, like a shelter, which I think is great at Fitzgerald, stuff like that. Can we do that, or is that something we'd have to go, like, that the Conservation Commission would have to do? Like,
Did you
where
have
we-
to ask that question?
I know, Chris. Like,
just, well, if we can't necessarily add it to our, I like the concept, I like the idea,
So, I mean, it
but
depends.
can we do that, or do we need to
So
work
I-
in hand with the Conservation Commission? to do that?
Could
'Cause I like
probably work in hand with them. That's just a tough piece of property. That's a hard question for me to give you a direct
Okay.
answer for. I think that working with them, we should be doing anyway.
Yeah.
I don't
Worth
know.
pursue, I mean, I'd keep it on the list, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
So
all right.
next,
Just-
all we
just a
need to
random
do for this item, okay, the first question is, do we want to participate in this process this way? It sounds like the answer is yes. I guess then the next step would be, next meeting, not the one with the select board, bring in the list of projects that we can see be a need, and let's discuss as a team, as a group. And let's try to keep the agenda item lean on the next meeting, so we can have a discussion about it. And, because their capital planning is going to start meeting right away over the next few months. Usually, last year they were done by, I think it was November.
Yeah.
So if we are going to participate in this project, in this process, we gotta also have our energy focus on that.
So I would say September is when we should be, like next month for sure. And hopefully, even if there's people come up with a list of 10, that's pushing it. Like if we had a list of 10 and there was a whole bunch of debate on 8 of them, but 2 of them were absolutely, this is what we should be going for, then I say that we move forward next month.
File
with
the two.
those.
Okay,
Because the
Okay.
reality is that, there's capital plan items that don't get funded every year and they get pushed down the list. And then new ones get introduced the following year. And sometimes, they re-look at things every year. So it's possible that, we could put stuff in next year and still get up somewhere on the list. But it would be nice to have a couple of this in 2024.
okay. All right, so for next meeting is, let's try to keep the agenda lean so we can discuss these things and try to move forward. Karen, I can see your face. So then this is then the 10-year plan. When some of the larger projects, I spoke with Heather about it, such as rectangular fields, I forgot what else. It was on my list of things that I spoke with her. And she said, 10-year plan, capital plan, that's how I can work with this. So it's much easier for her if we say, if we can make a case, and I think the rectangular fields is one that we can make a case that there's a real need for it. And because if we don't make that case for her, what's going to happen is the school is going to make that case that they need. And then the school is going to be building, which I'm not against school, it's just parks has used for more than just school. And we are operating outside the school realm of control. And I think there's a difference between parks and school. But anyway, so, and she understood and I appreciated that. So we need to put this to be a fall project, the 10-year outlook of what we need, because that's going to be a bigger plan. And the rectangular fields, for example, is
And that's another one that I think that there's gonna be two that are gonna jump out pretty quickly on the 10-year that are gonna be automatic shoo-ins. And I mean, she probably knows them now. That's gonna be completion of the Marshall Park project. And it's going to be Northfield Park.
right. And I think there will be other things too.
Oh,
but I think-
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, yeah, but for example, we might say, I've been thinking based on the project that we just went through with Marshall Park, is we need to have that property surveyed, right? Was the
Northfield
prop-
Park,
Yeah.
yeah.
Was the property surveyed when we bought it?
I remember, we did have a survey done.
Mhm.
I'd have to go back and look.
Okay. Okay, so I think this capital planning 10-year outlook is a fall project, but is one that we need to get started so that, because if we are able, so now we have the capital plan now for 2024, but it might be other things that will be pertaining to the 10-year that might make it into this year, such as the survey of Northfield Park. So that's all. Any comments on that, Chris?
No, I mean, that was one of the things I wrote down was Northfield, survey,
Okay,
with a kind of a question mark as I was thinking about things that need to be done,
okay,
But yeah.
all right.
I think that's, in some capacity, I think it's gonna be important for us to participate in this process.
Yeah, and I'm,
actively.
yeah, and she was open to it and she welcomed to have things been done this way, to be honest, because this is how she operates everything, all her budget and planning and outlook works out of this process. So if we are able to join this process, it'll make it easier for her to
Can I
incorporate our
read you guys
request.
something real quick?
Yeah.
What I'm sending to Nadia from conservation. So I said that we have been working on a master plan for Marshall Park for the last year or so. It's our understanding that Matt Marrow flagged the wetlands at Marshall last week. Town manager's office is working with us on an IFB, and this is what the draft IFB has. Delineate the wetland resource area on site and show measurements from existing structures, buffer zones, and restricted work zone areas as defined in the Wetland Protection Act and any town bylaw. Wetland areas to be flagged in the field for visual demarcation and for location for survey. So I said to her, am I correct to assume that the wetlands flagging that Matt did was the visual demarcation? I don't want to request that portion be removed if that's not what Matt did. Can you also confirm that he did the entire property, including Marshall Pond?
On
Any-
both sides of the shore, if that's what it is.
The circumference of the,
There we go.
yeah,
That's it.
circumference of the pond.
All sides of Marshall Pond? Does that sound all right?
Yeah. Because but towards the center of town up there too, it'll be important to flag that.
Yeah, that part actually theoretically, and that is a lot of wetland there.
Yep.
Okay,
All right, thanks. Sorry, back on track.
Good
all
job.
right. Okay, so the 10-year plan, a fall thing, but I think there are things that we need to be thinking about that because I think there might be some of those things that might end in the 2024. And I was thinking about the survey of Northfield Park. Okay, next item on the agenda is pending work needed to be done in parks and utilizing of a Google Doc. So Karen, can you share your screen? That was a a file, Lunenburg Parks projects and work.
Yep, let me just get back to the Google Drive.
Rob, we're almost at you.
You flicked the light switch on. That was,
Yeah.
I'm getting it. Hold on. Sorry, I had shut the meeting folder.
Oh, I can send you.
I have it,
a
I have it
chat.
open. I have it open, Karen, if you want me to share.
Sharon, I just sent you the link.
I have it right here. I got it.
Okay.
I just gotta open it and share it. All right, ready for me to share?
Yeah.
Apparently, we're having a party over here if anybody needs to come over. More and more cars keep coming down my driveway.
Okay, so I asked Bill, how can we work with him also in some of these things? And this is what I came up with and I went over with him. And he said he's okay with this. So Karen, if you go to the, can you make this bigger? Is this the size of your screen?
I can make it bigger.
So there's been a few things, there are longer term projects and requests that we have seen no movement on it. And again, keeping away something organized and giving a means of communication back and forth that is simple versus, I don't want us to be thinking that, like, it was great that he took care of the sand, but if next spring, if we know we're gonna need more sand there, it'll be so much easier if we can just put this in a list and him to just go over it, right? Otherwise, we're just playing catch up. And the other thing that I think will be important is I appreciate Bill and Heather to be willing to find ways of working with us, because there is a disconnect. They run the day-to-day, but we are responsible for the parks. It is, so I appreciate them being working with us. So we need to find a way that we can work together with them in a productive way. Sending emails left and right, or just having if our process is to just bug them until it gets done, it's not going to get done, is the truth. And it's not going to be done well. So what I figure is when we can talk about certain things, and these are 3 things we have talked about it, we can put our requests here, give some details, and Bill can then make his initial comments. And from there on, he would give us an update for every meeting. And this would be updates outside what Rob does for us. But these are updates that Rob may not even be part of the discussion. So it would be best to just get updates directly from Bill, if that makes sense.
Would you see this as like, so for instance, we had the email exchange back and forth with the mowing of the ball fields and so forth. So that would be something that would add to this list, or are you thinking bigger projects, or what, like, are we documenting all the concerns that are in our parks, or just bigger
Right.
sort of deals?
I think things like the mowing, I think that should be brought to his attention. But I think bigger things that needs planning from his side.
Okay.
We should kind of list here. The other thing we need to remember is that this is his first year on the job. So there will be things, say it again?
Don't break them.
Don't break them. No, I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking about that before. But there might be some historical knowledge about certain things that he doesn't know, right? So like the sprinkler, I had requested some information about sprinklers, like, I don't know if there's a sprinkler there. He said it a little nicer, but there are historical knowledge that we have. And I think a lot of people in this, you guys, well, Karen, at least right now, has that we don't have. So we can probably say, anyway, so I'm thinking about bigger projects, bigger work requests.
Cool. Okay.
Than just that. And we should plan it too. One thing that I think will be important with Chris's thoughts of don't break him is that we can filter some of these things too. I don't think we should drop a note. We should be adding things here for every thought that we have. I think we need to deliberate about what we put in here, why not, and what were we asking him to do. So he had, Bill, I had mentioned something to him about the sprinkler. He said, we're not working. So I had mentioned about the sprinklers. So he made repairs at the sprinklers
At Marshall
at
Park.
Marshall Park. Yeah, and I also had mentioned sprinklers at McNally. He said, we checked them and found ice damage in some of the pipes that will require repairs. The controls are in the building that is to be demolished. Do we have a time frame for the demolition? So anyway, my point is, let's try to utilize this document as a way to communicate with him and to help him get organized. He has a lot of work. He has bigger projects, but I think it'll be worth us using this versus just sending him emails every time we think of something.
Well, I think that this should be where, because all of these items, or I shouldn't say all of them, because maybe it wasn't all of them, but they were votes taken by
Right,
official requests from us too. So,
right. We did do that. So we can create I don't think we need to take a vote on everything, but I think this should be the means of the Parks Commission to communicate with Bill.
yep.
I think, emails requesting, it should be in case of emergencies, but if we plan things well, we're not gonna have too many of those.
Yeah, the only thing, like if he's comfortable with this form of communication and everything, it works great. I think it's perfect and everything's there for everyone to see. The question will be if and when there's a facilities person, and we fall under that person's guidance, are they comfortable with the same form of communication?
That would be for Bill to decide, and we're, we can work with, this is our way. If they have a better way to communicate,
Yeah, that's the only thing I bring up. I mean, if he's happy with it, I love it. I think it's great.
Okay,
I just at some point we may not be dealing with Bill. We're going to be dealing with somebody else, and so just making sure that person has
Right.
a whatever they're comfortable with. But hopefully at that point we have a demonstration that this actually works and
right,
is easy to, I think we continue to ask the question, make sure it's an easy form. Is Bill finding it an easy way to
right.
communicate, or is there an easier way, something we can do differently that keeps the lines of communication open for major,
Right.
major tasks and projects and so forth.
Right, and this way he knows he has to give us an update on these things once a month versus random emails from us, right? Which I think it's appreciated. Now I listed 3 items that I remember we voted. Are there any other items
Not off
that
the
we
top
can
of my
recall?
head.
Okay,
Is there anything right now that has to happen with the beach house?
There were people in there today. I'm hoping Rob will be able to tell us who was in there today, because when I drove by, there was somebody carrying wood, and I'm assuming it wasn't Rob.
Carrying wood like walls, or
No, like
uh,
carrying, it looks like a piece of plywood. I mean, not plywood, it looked like a 2x4, but I don't know what they were doing. So,
Okay. That would be, I mean, that's the only other, I guess, immediate project that comes to mind, or the McNally shack is definitely locked up and closed and whatever. No one's.
we did have a, I meant to put this in public comment. We did have somebody from the public reach out to me to tell me that there's kids actually like ignoring the signs, especially on the stairs, and they're playing on the stairs. So I don't know how, I'll get with Rob at some point and forward that message. So I don't know how it gets addressed, but
Graffiti would be the other.
oh yeah.
Just an update on the graffiti as to where we're at. And I did finally see where at the school that the tag is. It's on the cement wall that leads towards the bleachers. So like the roadway, it's that cement wall on the roadway that people sit on, or at the corner of where it meets the fence. that same star,
Does it look like the
Feels-
same artist?
same exact thing. But it was done in it looks like it was done in like marker. Like
Do they
permanent
know
marker.
who did theirs?
I didn't. I happened to be at one of the French River soccer games last night for
Gotcha.
Tegan, and when I stepped over the wall to go down to the bleachers, that's when I was like, oh, there, it's that wall. There it is.
Yeah.
So,
Gotcha.
but it's the same exact star name, same design, whatever. But I haven't had a discussion with anyone if they know. I'm assuming the police are involved there as well.
Do we have an action item for that? Like if we were to. if
I
we
thought
were
it was
to add-
being I thought it was being painted over and so forth, and I know I thought there was somebody at school that needed some community service hours that was gonna maybe paint.
I haven't heard
We
of
should ask
anything.
we should ask Bill before he hung up, but I that was something he had mentioned when I swung down to introduce myself last
Timeframe,
month
let's
or
see,
whatever.
fall 2022.
And I haven't walked over to see if it's all covered back up. I can walk over there and see if it's covered. Rob might know too.
Okay.
He might have an update. for us.
I just as a placeholder, I added
Yeah,
something.
just to make sure it's,
Okay. All right, so I know I had it listed here July 20th, but I didn't ask him an update for this meeting because we hadn't agreed that this is how we would communicate with him. So that's why, but I'll add our next meeting date for that. And I'll ask him for an update. And I also told him if there are things that, for example, the town beach weeds, it might be something that, and here's where it's my approach. I want to get things done. If there's a request here that is outside what he usually does or no, if he needs more help with that, can you help us with the lead on how to go about? I don't mind doing the legwork of getting some of these things started to show him a direction, because again, we're a small piece of his day. So I told him it would be acceptable for him to put on his under director comment and DPW director comments that I don't have a lot of information. Any information you can give me will help me get started. And and that's good. Okay. Any other comments about this? No, all right. Town beach closing date. I don't think we ever discussed that.
We didn't. I do want to read some feedback from Jared though. He couldn't stay for the whole meeting.
Okay.
He said, unfortunately, I can't stay for tonight's meeting. I just wanted to add for the beach closing date. The high schoolers will be back to school on August 30th. Myself and another lifeguard will be back to college by September 2nd. Not sure what Liz or Ethan are doing. Jared is of the opinion that the beach season should not extend past Labor Day, even on weekends. I think once everyone is back into the swing of things, people will forget the beach. So my comment on, and I totally get where he's coming from, without knowing what Liz's availability, knowing that 3 of our lifeguards, our high school age lifeguards, all play high school soccer, knowing that their schedules are tight to begin with, especially with high school soccer, that's probably going to take those 3 out of the running. You've got 2 kids going back to college. That literally only leaves Liz and Ethan. And I don't think that it's sustainable on the weekends with just 2 employees, because they run as a group of 3 for the weekends. So I don't even know if we can decide on that without knowing what anybody's availability is, to keep it open.
there wasn't soccer games on the weekends last year.
So here's the tight part. Yes, you're correct. There's not soccer games on the weekends, but with them in school 5 days a week and then soccer afterwards, they have absolutely no downtime. I will tell you that my kid next door, he's not gonna wanna work those weekends after, having crazy weeks before.
Builds character.
Yeah, well, and I would agree, but the three that I know we have employed at the town beach are, they're our AP classes, honors kids, their schedules are just booked.
No, I
Rob,
would respect their wishes, I think.
Rob, when you put through the seasonal employment form, do you remember what the last date was on it? Hold on, Rob, you're muted. There you go, Rob.
I do not know the specific dates. That would be something I'd have on my computer. It is not functioning as of this moment.
That's fine. So I want to say it was the middle of September.
Yes.
I want to say it was somewhere around the 14th of September, which would only give us Labor Day weekend and then the weekend after. I guess I don't know. I guess without having feedback, knowing that we have staff to work it, I don't know if we want to make a decision or if we just let that fall to day-to-day operations and say to Rob, we'd like it open through Labor Day weekends. If you have the staff, you can keep it open weekends after that until our seasonal employment is up.
Okay.
I don't know what
Yeah.
Anna and Chris think, but that's where my general thoughts going at this moment.
I would default to the lifeguards and what their availability is, and sure, they're the ones that are boots on the ground. I think I'm okay with if they're kind of take would be to shut it down. I'm okay. I think I'd support it.
So I mean, of course, that is, I just want to make sure we're asking the right questions. So before we make a decision, Rob, like if possible, I would like us to be open one extra weekend because we have had in the past. That I think should be, that's my feeling. Not saying force the case, meaning we usually have a rotation of 3, but there are only 2 people available. I don't think we should stay open. But if there's a possibility to have 3 people, can we stay open an extra weekend? That would be my request, and not just, it's like, our business is people, so we should try to serve as much as possible.
Or if you have 2, do we shorten the hours or?
Right.
So last year, we actually closed on August 29th. And I don't know what we did in 2021. When was Labor Day last year? When
Would have
we
been
were
the
late?
same. It would have been. Hold on here.
So we actually closed before Labor Day last year. Labor Day
was the 6th last year.
September 6th. Chris, you should know this. You got to spend the whole weekend with me.
I know. Well, I had to make sure I had the date right in the calendar.
Fine.
So the 29th was the weekend before Labor Day.
So we closed the week before. I'm guessing it was a Sunday before school started.
It was the Sunday, yeah, because school would have started on the 31st. Yeah,
Yeah.
first day of school was the 31st, so we closed the 29th.
Yeah.
Was the So if that were to be the case this year, we would close on the 28th.
If we close the Sunday before school started, it'd be the 28th.
Yeah, I think first day of school is, because Labor Day is the 5th. So first day of school is the 30th.
I don't have a strong opinion in either direction. I mean, I think it's nice to have it open Labor Day. If we have the staff to stay open Labor Day, I think instead of making a firm closing date, we should say, be saying to Rob, let's go ahead and we, as a commission, we would like it to stay open until X, Y, and Z date if we can. But if there's a staffing issue, then you need to obviously fall back to that.
Okay, I'm good with that. So what is that day? Is it Labor Day?
Yeah, let's try for Labor Day this year.
Okay.
All right.
Well, okay, Labor Day. I mean, I remember when my kids were younger, it used to be, I think, 2 weekends.
No, nope, when your
No?
kids were younger, we closed the middle of August. We closed,
No.
yep, in 2012, which would be just a few years before our kids graduated. I'm sorry, in 2016, just a few weeks before, the year after our kids graduated, we closed on August 14th. And in 2012, we were also the middle of August.
Yeah, but I was talking about my kids were younger, like 2005, 2006. I remember things, because that's when I
No,
took them.
it's always been, before I came on the commission, it had always been the full week prior to school starting. So it wasn't the Sunday before school started, it was the week before that, because it gave the beach coordinator a week off for summer break, because she was a school teacher. She went right into the town beach, and then she would take that week off, that full week before school started, and that was every year.
Okay.
So,
Okay. All right. So we'd like to stay open at least through Labor Day if possible.
Yeah.
And maybe even with reduced hours. Okay, that sounds good. You're good with that, Chris? Okay, we lost him. All right. Rob, what is your update?
Specific updates from last meeting. The hiring, well, Peter Hennessy's application never came through. That was an administrative decision not to take on any more staff. So the request never happened. Just to finalize where that went. AED equipment and first aid is it has been at the beach from the opening and is accessible. I think that was a question of if we had the AED box last time. In terms of the lockbox and where the solution to where they're going to store their gear, the lifeguards were going to store their gear after hours. We were able to use permission to store within the beach house. We're not inside it. We're just keeping the equipment that's necessary within the not the working area, but stored within the beach house. I don't know if McNally, the irrigation was my something that I needed it. I got a little information on it. McNally has irrigation. It has I was told it has a little bit of a leak. I'm not sure how that would affect the demolition of the unit itself, but I would imagine if anything, it would have to be capped and handled. That should be left to the experts.
Yeah, that's what Bill said, that
Yeah.
I don't think he gave us a plan for that. We gotta think about that as it happens or not. We let them
Yeah.
decide.
I sent out from Marshall Park, the problem with the users and patrons, I guess, not using the bathroom facilities. That was handled through progressive emails and policies. They all agreed not to do any
thank you. What a weird conversation that must have
a
been.
weird conversation. Yes, absolutely. But that's part of the agenda, right? We had a porta potty that was turned over. Which was very surprising. It was reported by
My
Karen.
daughter.
Oh,
My
okay.
wasn't even me, it was
Where?
my daughter.
Where?
Fitzgerald
At
Field.
Fitzgerald. At
Oh, really?
Fitzgerald. So that was immediately handled by the company. We had to obviously notify the parties that were on the contract, which was the Little League. That was handled. I just want to say about the beach house and all the staff there. They are getting nothing but in huge regards to the way they work together. Kudos from the community. I get a lot of phone calls and personal phone calls and emails about how much they enjoy the staff there. And it's incredible. That comes in, it somehow promotes a large positive environment. And I don't know if anybody's driven by there. They are really packed, and I have numbers to show a lot of that. You know, these numbers won't include the family passes and the individual children on there, but we have, I ran these numbers yesterday, and we must have had at least 20 more sales throughout the day today. I couldn't get the rest of the numbers, but we are close to approaching 300 beach passes sold total. 100 of those are resident family beach passes, and we broke over the $12,000 mark today. I guess that would be, if I ran the report today, we would be over $12,000.
So, so that means 200, about 200 were day passes?
I would say more like 110 are day passes, but some of those day passes immediately turned into people being like, you know what, the better deal is the season pass. And
are they able to give them the credit? How does that?
no.
No.
That's not how that worked. No, they just immediately bought the season pass because they saw the savings.
Oh, okay.
We had a lot of seniors this year that you know, we don't necessarily have we can't add members on family members like children onto senior passes, which is, you know, obviously that's a policy that we have. But we had a lot of seniors that would normally buy their senior passes, but they have grandchildren. They ended up buying the family pass to include grandchildren living in their household. I don't know if that's something we'd like to address in the future, but either way, that's some factual information. In terms of where am I?
So, beach pass. All right. So Liz had said that she had she had like 70 kids signed up for the next session.
Yes.
So in like I would based on the swim lesson numbers, I would think we would have more family beach pass sales.
Well,
Why?
the
So-
historical information only goes back to 2020 for me, and so far we are exceeding the previous years, but we are right up at the point where we have more data for the swim lessons. If my computer didn't die, from what I could see, I think Liz might even have somewhere upwards to 120 more students to go through for the, I don't know, the next session, but there's a session in between. We have over 120 over 120 swimming lessons or registered swimmers.
That must be for both sessions, no?
It could be, like I said, right before my computer fell down, just died on me, I had everything kind of set up, but we have a lot of swimming lessons going on right now.
Karen,
She
I was
seemed really
saying,
pleased with the swim lesson too. That's cool.
Oh
Yeah.
my good, the feedback that I'm getting, we are too cheap.
Yeah, except we've got, yeah. Lucky for you, yeah, trust me, that when we jumped up to this price, people were not happy with us.
Yeah, I could imagine, but you know, people are saying this. We have families signing up for second sessions that they enjoyed it so much, and it, you know, they already bought the beach pass, like.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that was how it was many years ago, like when Anna and our kids were little. My kids were always signed up for both sessions of swim lessons, and you know, they enjoyed it, and it was one of those, like, I don't know, my kids liked going to the beach. So I was trying to pull up the 2019 numbers, but it's not as let me see, it's in a condensed email somewhere. I can
I
doc it
I
somewhere.
have a sheet that I think Kayla had shared. Let me share with you, Karen. Um, So that's 2019.
And I do have 2018 somewhere too.
I have 2018 too. I can give it to you if you want.
No,
Um,
am I clicking on something? Is there a link for me or something?
Yeah, on the chat, but I don't know what is the information that's there. And this one here is for 2018, but it's a very condensed data.
So we sold 98 family passes
In 2000,
in 19.
this is 2018, what I just sent.
So 2019 family passes went from number 2 all the way up to
14.
114. So 112 family beach passes we sold. We had only sold 6 individual passes. And what's that, 14 senior passes?
10 out of town.
So to answer you
Yeah.
had said something about the numbers, Anna. You have to remember that sometimes on family passes, I obviously don't have the breakdown this year, but you could have 2, 3, 4, 5 kids in a family.
Right.
And so that chews up, right away, you go and you look and you're like, oh, well, that's, knocks
Yeah, it looks
up.
like one of these goes to 10. In 2019, it's like 9.
That was was it this year? There was one year, I think it might have been 2018, the year that I did it, and you just went through here and you were like, what on earth is going on? Like, you had policy that was, you're trying to set policy that it includes 2 adults and up to X number of dependents, like they're supposed to be your dependents. But of course, every year you had people sort of skirting through and trying to not follow the rules, and I don't know. It doesn't seem to be as bad this year.
So the 2018, the numbers were total passes sold 658. Family were 146, senior were 15, individual were 7. And total revenue for passes were $11,020. And walk-ins and swim, which seem to have been the same category, were 2,200. So that's what we have for 2018.
Yeah.
So yeah, Rob, I mean, if you the year before, Kayla gave us breakdown of, I can send you these reports that I have, or maybe you can grab one of the links. And it'll be,
He's on his phone.
Yeah, his computer's not working, so.
oh, okay, yeah, so maybe by the end of the season to plan for September, to give an overview revenue for, beach revenue and breakdowns.
I don't remember, do we conduct exit interviews with lifeguards? and,
No, usually, no, we have
oversight and
that.
so forth? I don't know if it's worth just some sort of process where we're gathering feedback
Yeah,
a little,
absolutely. I
maybe
think that
a
would be
little more
beneficial.
formally or whatever. Doesn't have to be overly formal, but just an opportunity for them to provide feedback that we capture while it's in the moment at the end of the season kind of deal. So we have that for future future reference and
I can do it.
consideration or whatnot would be maybe helpful.
I agree.
Cool.
So we had a few issues in the beginning when we were selling beach passes, or the family passes. It was erroneously charging, instead of it being a capped fee, it was charging each individual in your family member, and some of the families that were purchasing didn't catch it, and it would overcharge. Specifically for the swim lessons, it would overcharge for each individual. So there would be a charge for families that would normally be $75, it would be the charge was over $150 additional to what they should have been spending, and that was caught immediately. There was only 3 charges after that before I was able to fix the mistake. All were refunded immediately, and yeah, the problem was solved immediately. It was a clerical error on my part. I was not familiar with the system, and it was one box check that could have saved.
Hey, Rob, this winter when you have a little bit of downtime,
Yep.
let's connect and let's go on to the East Long Meadow my rec page,
Yeah.
and then we'll screenshot it and we're gonna send it to my rec and we're gonna ask them how you do this.
Okay.
Because there's a way, like for a family pass on the East Long Meadow page, you click on that you want a family pass. You go to the page and it will tell you, you can select up to 6 members. When you go to their swim lesson page, because they do something similar with swim lessons as we do, where they cap it at a family. If you click on the family pass, it'll tell you, just click on the members that you want and it just does it.
I would
So
love
I
to.
think that there's probably an easier way to do it. It's just gonna be a matter of sending a message to my rec and saying, we want to do this, how do we do it?
Yeah, there's a lot of things in hindsight now that I'm like, okay, now that we got through this season, I didn't want to change it in the middle
Yep.
because I'm pretty sure I would mess it up even worse.
Fair
But
enough.
moving forward, it's going to be super simple for the user, and we'll make it very apparent if you're buying a beach pass. It's going to be right on the front of the screen as soon as you get on our website.
Okay.
Rob, you talked about people being overcharged. Did we have any ones that people were undercharged that you saw?
There was, the issues that we'd run into is for undercharging would be somebody signing up for a swim lesson and not buying the pass and trying to like talk their way out of it. Like, well, I just bought the swim lesson, and you're like, no, you agreed to buy the day pass, and nobody was undercharged.
Okay.
The issues of overcharging were the,
Okay.
I guess more, that was what came out immediately. I was like, oh no, that's not good. But all of it was taken care of, and we resolved the problems with all the parties that were involved.
Okay. The last thing is, the last meeting we had the Little League wasn't up to date on their fees. Are they caught up?
Yes, no, they are not caught up for they're gonna get me the summer roster, and after that, finalize the end of this season. So
What's the timeline on that?
I could push them, but I believe they should be finished. There shouldn't have been any more rain games by this point, but I want to have this resolved before August 1st. If that's what I asked him, but if there's any issues after that, I will make sure you are notified about anything moving forward. If there's any discrepancies of them not paying up, I will make sure that's known.
Okay. Now they had said they would be done by August. Are they planning to remove the portable parties?
The porta potties are still on premise. They plan at the end of the contract. I don't know if it specifically means someone's going to snatch them up on that date. I don't know. But their contract does end in August. And from all I can say is if they get picked up on that date, then they're strictly to the letter on their contracts. But I have not yet seen anything move yet. There's porta potties all on every facility that we have.
Okay.
Well, there's not one at Fitzgerald anymore, right? That's
Oh,
gone.
no, that's, excuse me, there's not one on Fitzgerald. It's been removed.
Okay. Do you have any other updates for us?
Yes, indeed. August, we have more well-received MA sports will be coming back for a multi-sports program to include, but not limited to. They do the multi-sport like kickball, soccer, deck hockey, dodgeball. The children the kids that participated in it absolutely loved it. The parents were enthralled by the whole thing. So we invited them back to program them in for August. as well as next week, Wednesday, we have wiffle ball coming up. That is July 27th. Oh man, this is where I had everything up on my computer. But that is going to be run by our very own Anna Lockwood. She is volunteering to spearhead that. So it is a family open to all ages, and we will be running a pickup game of wiffle ball starting July 27th, 5 to 6:30, and it will run for about 6 weeks. And
Have we had anybody sign up, or did she already scare people away?
Oh, we've got 3.
We did?
No comment. Yes, people like to sit in the wings, like waiting. They want to know that their friends are signing up first. And what I see always happens, it's the last minute, but our marketing campaign is growing exponentially with the help of Anna as well. She's taking the reins there, and she is helping to promote as well. So we are putting out the word much further, faster, with more efficiency. So people are responding to me when I start getting the phone calls and questions. I know the information is getting out there, and as well as all of you. I know you push it through Facebook and all other social media platforms. So thank you. Keep that up. Closing date, and I believe that is all from me. Do you have any questions for me?
You have the cardboard race coming
Yes,
too.
excuse me. Well, another flyer that was up on my August 20th, the cardboard boat race is back. Same rules apply, that if it's not advertised yet, it will be out before close of business Thursday. So the cardboard boat race is back. Same rules apply. Anybody who wants to sign up, there are people already signing up for it, so it is publicized. I do have already 2 teams signed up.
Can you ping the teen center? Can somebody, or Chris, if you're in that area?
Yep, I'll send a message to Michelle.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah. So I do have a question for Rob, because I got asked this question as regards to these free programs that we have. What is our policy regarding non-resident participating in free activities?
We don't have if you're asking if the Parks Commission has a policy, we do not.
What do we do if someone out of town wants to sign up for these free activities?
We've never offered a free activity before. So create a policy.
Well, I mean, we did, like Chris ran the soccer.
That wasn't.
I don't think I don't know that we had a non-resident. That was a pretty when I did the soccer, it was pretty targeted. Like I ran it for 2 age groups because of my kids. Yep. So slightly selfish on my part, and so we, it went out to, it was advertised to everybody, but I mean, it was at the time it was I think they were 4th grade at the time, maybe 5th grade. It was myself and then the girls coach. So we were able to further publicize to those teams and age groups of kids.
Is there a max number of kids you can have in this pickup thing? What's
yes,
the max?
The way I lock it out is I have a limited number for the non-residents, and it's obviously a much smaller number than the residents. And the reasoning for my thinking is you want to have a game. So if we're able to get like, let's say, a limited number of non-residents, and then I have a waiting list, and residents don't, we don't have enough residents to have like a full game of residents alone, I kind of have a list to pick from. And
so I don't think opening it up to non-residents is a bad thing. I think that, I mean, if you were going to tell me right now you had 50 families signed up, and but it's supposed to start next week, and you have, is it 3 people or 3 families signed up?
3 individuals.
So you're not going to get very far with 3 individuals. I would say open it up to out of town, because most of our other programming, we also offer out as, usually when we do out of town stuff, we have it at a slightly higher rate.
Yes.
So it's just advertising our program. So I mean, unless anybody else disagrees, I don't think it's a bad idea to,
No, not at all. And for instance, as an example, the multi-sports wouldn't have really taken off without the additional non-residents coming in.
yep. Yep.
And it made it so it was feasible to have 8 to 12-year-olds and they had a whole week of it, well, 5 days anyways, and they absolutely, like, they loved it. I could not, that was beyond my expectations, and the response from the families was excellent. So
That's called marketing. Every Facebook group got the
don't take away
information
the
on that.
shine, Anna. Don't take away the shine.
No, it's good. I'm glad that, if there was 3 Lunenburg families that took advantage of that, because we had 5 other families from out of town join it. I'm pleased with that,
Have you sent that directly to like the Little League group or softball group, or like I wanted to like send the
No,
The
no.
football?
I
to
think
like Steve Chow or
Yes,
whatnot.
the email marketing is getting, the mass is growing.
I
Like
just
said,
want a person outreach from Anna on behalf of the park commission or something like that, like to send like, hey, I'm organizing the wiffle ball thing on.
Yes, I did contact the Little League group, and
Okay.
their response was great. They said they will advertise that.
Cool.
But I know we we're talking about wiffle ball, but the same thing falls for the cardboard boat race. Is that also open for non-residents?
I would
I'm
say
okay.
absolutely.
Okay. All right. So I'm okay with that.
Is there a flyer, Rob, for the? I went to the rec website, so I know there's information on the boat race with some rules and stuff. Is there a flyer yet?
Yes.
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 I thought I saw it somewhere, but I couldn't find the image.
We will plaster that on Facebook, and you will have the ability to share it. Like I said,
Okay.
close of business, I should have all that information out before the end of Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you can send me a copy of the flyer, I'll forward that directly to the Boys and Girls Club.
I will do that, Chris.
Chris, can you send the wiffle ball too? It might be like one
Oh
of
yeah,
those
yeah, for
days
sure.
that
Yeah, I'll download that flyer now and send that over, because I bet you they'd
that would be
get
a
some
good
kids,
program for them
kids
to
over there.
just,
They have
yeah.
Tuesdays. They're
It's a
Tuesdays are
Wednesday.
an offsite day for them
Okay.
for the summer program. Tuesdays are offsite days.
Mhm.
But they're usually, it'll be tight. Some days it's depending on where they're going. Some days it's 5:30 I know 5:30 is pickup for the summer
Okay.
camp. Some days they're back at 4, some days they're back at 5, depending on where they're going and traffic and whatnot. But I'll definitely kick that over to them, and I'll reshare it stuff as well.
Okay. All right. The last comment that I have, and when we talked about board comment, I forgot to mention, Heather said that they had a contractor come and do asbestos testing at McNally.
Mhm.
And she also requested them to do it at the snack shack, the old one at Marshall.
Okay.
She doesn't have the results of that yet.
That
But-
jogs my memory. Hey, Rob, do you know what they were doing down in the beach house today?
Was it a plumber in there?
I don't know. It was somebody going through the main door and it looked like he was carrying a 2x4.
Yeah, no, to be honest, I don't know what he was doing in there. He had his sawhorses. I don't know if he was finishing the trim around the top. Specifically, I don't know
Okay.
who was programmed to be inside there, but all I know is the lifeguard staff is not, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no information on that guy.
Okay. Thank
I don't know
you.
if that's good or bad, so.
All right, any other items that we
Well,
want to discuss? under other
congratulations.
business?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Could I
No,
Rob.
that was it. Oh, Rob, okay.
Yeah, I have one more thing. I'm not sure how we feel about, I don't know if I could recommend or grant limited access to the town finance office to enable like financial reports to be run and reconciled, because I work directly with the town finance, and I have to generate reports and to reconcile my monthly financials, and them not having the ability to see any of my financial stuff is kind of, I don't know, it's a bit cumbersome because these are the people that handle the finances. I'm not sure how we feel about them having access.
Access to my rec?
Yes.
Absolutely not, is my answer to that. But wait, you can generate reports from your side.
Yes.
So my concern with having, we went, if it's all right with Anna, and I don't want to take over your meeting, Anna, I would actually like you to bring that to the next meeting. Let me go back on some of our old recordings. And so you can hear the conversation that happened a year or two ago with our previous rec director and the type of access that person would need into my rec, because you can't limit their access to just specific areas. They will literally have full reign over everything, including being able to see registration information, people's, whatever information they have to put in, on their kids. And they could easily delete things if they
Yes.
weren't paying attention to what they were doing.
Absolutely.
And I'm way too tired to be able to focus my attention back or bring my brain back to where we were when we had this discussion. So if we could talk about it at the next meeting, and I'll send you a link. I'll go back and try to find it for YouTube. So you can watch that conversation, and then you can decide whether or not you think it's worthy to try to move forward with that.
No, I think you made a few points that are plainly obvious when they're mentioned. I can only give limited like managerial access, but they will have access to things that will obviously they could erase and edit and all that. And I think that would be the larger issue that would not be fixed immediately by software company or anything that I could do on my side. But please do send me that information, and I would like to look into it for sure.
Is it Mylene, out of curiosity, looking for this?
Not mentioning any names, just
No, she went hard at me the last time, and I'm just wondering if she's
well, my thing is
a
like when
victim and thinks that the new guy is gonna just bend over for her and let her have what she wants.
I don't necessarily want to do that. I just want to be able to. It's so time consuming. When really what I should be doing is general accounting, not I'm presenting her with so much that time wise it would be so much easier if she could generate the report, and I just hand over my daily operational stuff as opposed to her not having access, and I'm providing everything for her.
I'll send you over the link, but in the meantime, if there's something that you need help with on that end, let me know. I'm happy to come in and sit with you and figure it out.
Thank you. All right. Then that's all I got.
Okay. Rob, are you planning any fall sports program?
Yes, I definitely want to get in best sports. I'm working hard to get soccer. I know other than the soccer league, I would like conditioning things. But I also have the elderly, want pickleball and bocce. So I will be putting plans for pickleball and bocce to go along with maybe some pickup basketball games for teens and young adults, as well as some sort of multi-sport program for, maybe there are adults that want to play kickball, maybe, just like we're doing with the wiffle ball games, trying to introduce more things and generally putting them out there to see what the response is. And since, marketing now, we're kind of blanketing more people, the responses are much greater than they were a year previous for me. So
We just finished up a summer basketball. So the Central Mass Youth Basketball just finished up a summer league for travel. So there was like 6 games over 4 weeks. Wow. That just wrapped up. Some of it's wrapping up this week. Lunenburg is already done. There were 3 teams from Lunenburg that played, we wrapped up this past week. But there's a few that are still finishing up from other towns this week.
Oh, Anna. So Chris, I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
I have something to remind me, I have something to add to that list.
Which
Go ahead,
list?
Chris, your list for Bill.
Oh, okay.
I rudely talked to Chris.
For best soccer, Rob Court, I think typically Lysa brings them in the fall at the start of the season for the younger kids. So just maybe coordinate with Lysa, and Andy Lund kind of does the in-town stuff. So if you want to reach out, I can put you in touch with him or whatever and see if that's something that they're already doing, and maybe you guys can partner up on it. That's
Absolutely.
advertise it. It's a good recruitment piece for Lysa to get kids to play, and but maybe you can kind of help advertise it or something. I don't even know if it's on their radar, but I know it's typically they do best soccer, and it's usually done the first couple of weeks of the
fall.
soccer season, because it gives the new coaches for the little kids kind of tools to use for the rest of the season.
Yep.
So
Yeah, if you can get me that information, that'd be
but there
great.
usually isn't something as far as going into the fall season for the older kids. There usually isn't something going into the season. High school, there is no Lysa, so like they're already doing captain's practices for JV and varsity all summer, a couple mornings a week. But for like the kids that would be playing Lysa in the fall, there is no outside sort of conditioning or programming or anything that way until soccer officially kicks off.
All right.
I know they're doing a lot with the fenced in fields anyway. I know is getting a lot of attention right now at the high school. It was just flagged. They just brought in dirt. They just had, so it's getting a lot of much needed attention. It's pretty beat up. So
Like some of these smaller practices, like can Marshall be used? Like,
yeah, I think if you had cones and whatnot, you should
Right.
be fine. Like
Well,
it's,
we used
I mean,
to
if you're
have-
just doing drills or whatever, like you're not talking about a
Right.
game where you need a lined field or whatever. If it's just drills and conditioning and
right.
things like that, I think it's,
We
Yeah.
like
used,
even from a conditioning standpoint, a running program or something like that would be.
we used the big field at Fitzgerald at Marshall. When the high school was being built, they utilized it for a field hockey field.
Right.
And it did run into the baseline, so there was sections of it that weren't grass, but they made it work. So yeah, can certainly put something over there. So
Okay.
to add to that list,
Mhm.
Wallace Park, the basketball court needs to be addressed.
That's probably something that, yeah. Or is that something that's gonna have to go on the 2024? I don't know
well,
what something like that's gonna cost
I don't know either.
to do it the right way.
Is that the what is it in particular? Is it
The surface is compromised. It was refinished a couple of years ago and it's not holding up.
Okay, I think Rob had done some work on that, right? Come on, you can't do a kitty cat. That's kind of mean.
It's not my fault. Yeah, I did do a little bit. I looked into it and it was like tape's coming up. It's very thin in some spots. It's all cracking. It's not a very good condition job. I'm not no expert on putting surfaces, but I've seen some floating surfaces where they're the same as deck hockey, that those things stand up for ages. You replace the pieces you need to, and it's a little slippery when wet, but wet surface isn't.
Right.
Yeah, we just need to come up with something to either salvage what we have or, that's relatively new. It's disappointing that this has happened, but just one of the things in my head. Not that I want to delay our meeting any longer. Congratulations, it's now 10:30.
Yeah, I think you're just trying to make me run the longest meeting ever.
Exhausted.
Yeah. Okay. With
Good first
that-
meeting, Anna. Good
Oh
job.
yeah, lovely. Oh yeah. Yeah. Telling members to be respectful to each other. It's lovely. Putting me in a
Makes the
different
world go round.
generation.
Makes the world go round.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough to really hold. All right.
I'll send the
well-
cardboard boat race over to the skate park. I'll send it over to Anthony too. Maybe it's something the skate park would
Oh,
jump
yeah,
on or whatever.
yeah,
Some visibility. They can build a big skate park and sit on skateboard and sit on top.
right. But we want the people doing some of the wiffle ball too, so just like get the word out on that. You know, the more we do these things, the easier, the more people get used to looking at parks for that kind of recreation. So the first few, it's always a little harder to sell than, you know, the other ones. So let's try, hopefully we can make this a regular thing and residents get used to look to parks for that kind of recreation.
Rob, can you
Oh.
check, speaking of the wiffle ball thing, I don't know if you can find access to it, but in my rec, the folks that maybe had signed up previously for the adult softball deal that we ran. I mean,
There's a way to blast everybody. There's a way to send out,
it was pre-COVID. So,
Yeah.
but I like, that's definitely a targeted group of folks that,
Yep.
hey, you know, you played softball in the past, bring your family out and come, you know, softball was just an adult thing, but they could bring family members out. And
No, that's excellent. That's
I
another
think it
thing,
was well, no, it would have been 2019.
2019.
Summer of 2019, I think is when it would have been, because summer of 2020 was all blending. Summer of 2020 was COVID time, right?
Yeah.
Right.
All of it
Yeah,
was.
so summer, I think it was summer of 2019, I think.
I will blanket email them.
All right, next, aside from August 2nd, what is our next meeting?
I think it's August 17th.
Okay, let's see. It's not on my calendar
You're making
yet.
stuff up, Karen. But that sounds good.
Aren't we usually the third Wednesday of August?
Yeah, but it's not on the calendar, my calendar at least.
Well, we
Okay,
can do the following week if you guys would prefer.
no, it's fine. I might have something at work, but I may not. I don't know yet.
But when are you gonna know? Do you want to bump it?
No, let's just stick with the plan.
Okay.
Because let's not bump it. Okay, so August 17th is our next. All right, anything else?
Nope, that's all on my end.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Karen, we need a motion to
Oh,
adjourn. don't we?
yes.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Whole meeting would have been invaluable. Would I do it again?
Oh, God. All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn at 10:33.
I second that.
All right, roll call.
Aye.
Me.
All right, have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
on.
Yeah.